Hello, sleepy soul. The night is quiet, the world is asleep, and something is waiting in the dark. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and write your country and current time in the comments. Now listen carefully. The first message came in at 11:43 p.m. while all four of us were sitting in the living room with our shoes off, rain tapping softly against the windows. Hope you're enjoying the cabin. Please don't sit in the rocking chair by the fireplace. It was my wife's favorite. I remember staring at my phone for a few seconds, waiting for one of my friends to laugh and say they had sent it as a joke. Nobody did. Across the room, Mara was sitting in that exact rocking chair. She looked up from her glass of wine and said, "What?" And that was the first time that weekend I felt something in my body quietly change. Not panic yet, not fear exactly. More like my brain had stepped into a dark room and couldn't find the light switch. My name is Tessa. I was 26 when this happened, living in Portland, Oregon, working a normal office job that I hated in the usual boring way. Nothing about my life was interesting enough to make me think something like this would ever happen to me. That fall, my three closest friends and I planned a weekend trip to a cabin near Mount Hood. It was supposed to be simple. 2 nights. No work emails. No boyfriends. No drama. Just rain, trees, cheap wine, and the kind of deep sleep you only get when your phone barely has service. There were 4 of us, me, Mara, Jenna, and Liv. Mara found the listing. It was on a rental site none of us had used before, but it looked legitimate. The photos were beautiful in that polished, slightly fake way cabin listings always are. Big windows, stone fireplace, wooden deck facing the trees, a hot tub we all immediately agreed we would use even if it was freezing outside. The host's name was Daniel. His profile picture showed a man in his late 30s or early 40s, standing on the porch of the cabin with one hand lifted in a small wave. He had that harmless outdoorsy look, flannel jacket, beard, kind eyes. His messages before the trip were friendly, maybe a little too friendly, but not enough to be creepy. Drive safe, ladies. The road gets dark after mile marker 17. I left extra towels for you. Please enjoy the house. It likes having people in it. That last line made Jenna laugh when Mara read it out loud. It likes having people in it, she repeated. What is this, a haunted Airbnb? We all joked about it then. That's the part that bothers me now. How easily fear can look like humor when it first walks in. We arrived on a Friday evening, just after sunset. The rain had turned the road shiny and black, and the forest on either side looked thick enough to swallow the headlights. The cabin was even prettier in person. Warm porch lights, smoke-colored windows, a little wooden sign near the steps that said "Welcome home," even though none of us lived there and none of us wanted to. The key was exactly where Daniel said it would be, inside a lockbox attached to the railing. The code worked. The door opened. Inside, the place smelled like cedar, old books, and something faintly sweet, like vanilla candles that had burned years ago but never fully left. The living room had a stone fireplace, a brown leather couch, a shelf of board games, and that rocking chair near the hearth. The kitchen was small but spotless. There were 4 mugs lined up on the counter. That made Liv pause. Did the listing say 4 guests? She asked. Yeah, Mara said. Why? Liv pointed at the mugs. Nothing. Just perfect number. Jenna rolled her eyes. Because the host is good at hosting. We brought in our bags, claimed bedrooms, opened wine, and spent the first hour doing exactly what we'd come there to do. Nothing important. Then Daniel messaged. Hope you're enjoying the cabin. Please don't sit in the rocking chair by the fireplace. It was my wife's favorite. Mara slowly stood up. Okay, she said, trying to sound amused. That's weird. Maybe there's a camera, Jenna said. Nobody answered right away. The room suddenly felt very still. The fire cracked in the fireplace. Rain ticked against the glass. Somewhere in the walls, the house made a soft settling sound like a sigh. I looked around for cameras because that's where all our minds went first. Modern fear. Not ghosts. Not curses. Cameras. We checked the obvious places. Smoke detector. Bookshelf. TV area. corners of the ceiling. Nothing. Mara messaged Daniel back. Sorry, didn't know. We moved. He replied almost instantly. Thank you, Mara. That was worse. Because Mara had booked the cabin, sure. Her name was on the reservation. But he hadn't addressed her in any of the other messages. And something about seeing her name right after she stood up made the room feel smaller. Jenna tried to be practical. Okay, he probably has a camera outside and saw us through the window. The curtains are closed, Liv said. They were. For a while, we pretended it was fine. We made dinner, pasta and salad from a bag. We played a card game. We laughed too loudly at things that weren't that funny. But every few minutes, I caught someone glancing at the corners of the room. Around midnight, we decided to go to bed. The cabin had 3 bedrooms. Mara took the small room downstairs because she said she didn't care. Jenna and Liv shared the bigger upstairs room. I took the other upstairs room by myself. My room had a slanted ceiling, a plaid blanket, and one window facing the trees. There was no mirror, which I was grateful for, though I didn't know why at the time. I changed into sweatpants, brushed my teeth, and was about to plug in my phone when it buzzed. Sleep well, Tessa. I stared at the message, so long the screen dimmed in my hand. I had not told Daniel my name. Mara hadn't either, she swore later. The booking only listed her. None of my social accounts were connected to the rental site. My profile picture wasn't there. My name was nowhere. For a second, I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia. I really did. I wanted to tell myself there was some simple explanation, some account sharing thing or email detail I forgot about. Then I heard one floorboard creak outside my bedroom door. Very slow, very soft, like someone shifting their weight in the hallway. I held my breath. The cabin was old. Old houses make noise. Everybody knows that. Wood expands. Pipes tick. Wind gets under the roof. But this sounded like a person trying not to be heard. I texted the group chat. Is anyone in the hallway? Mara replied first. No. Then Jenna. Nope. In bed. Liv sent. Absolutely not, and now I hate them. I sat there with my phone clutched in both hands, staring at the gap under the door. No shadow passed. No handle turned. After a minute, I forced myself to get up and lock the door. My hands were trembling so badly I had to try twice. The next morning, everything looked less frightening because daylight is arrogant like that. It makes you feel stupid for being scared. The woods were misty and green. The kitchen smelled like coffee. Jenna made eggs. Mara kept saying we should report the host, but even she sounded unsure. What do we say? She asked. Our creepy host knows our names? We say he's watching us, Liv said. Can we prove that? Nobody answered. Mara messaged Daniel. Are there cameras inside the house? For almost 10 minutes, there was no reply. Then, of course not. I would never watch guests that way. That way. Jenna read it over Mara's shoulder and whispered, Nope. I hate that. We spent the day away from the cabin. We drove into a little town about 20 minutes away, walked through gift shops, bought coffee, and tried to act like we weren't all checking our phones every few minutes. No messages came. By late afternoon, we had mostly convinced ourselves that Daniel was just strange. Maybe lonely. Maybe socially awkward. Maybe he thought playful, creepy messages were part of the rustic cabin experience. That explanation lasted until we got back. There were 4 small envelopes on the kitchen counter, one for each of us. Our names were written on the front in neat black ink. Tessa, Mara, Jenna, Liv. I remember the exact silence after we saw them. It wasn't dramatic. Nobody screamed. Nobody moved. We just stood there in the doorway with grocery bags in our hands, watching those envelopes like they were alive. Mara whispered, Those were not here. Jenna said, We locked the door. We had. I knew we had. Liv backed toward the porch. I'm not staying here. Nobody argued. Mara opened her envelope with shaking fingers. Inside was a Polaroid. It showed her sitting in the rocking chair the night before, taken from inside the room. Not through a window, not from outside. Inside, Jenna made a small sound and covered her mouth. I opened mine because some horrible part of me needed to know. My photo showed me standing in my bedroom, reaching toward the lamp beside the bed. My back was to the camera. The picture had been taken from the corner near the closet. My heart sank into my stomach as I realized I had slept in that room alone, in the dark, with someone close enough to photograph me. Liv started crying then. Not loud, just these short, quiet breaths, like her body couldn't decide what to do. "We're leaving," Jenna said. She grabbed her bag from the couch. Mara called the rental site support number. I called 911. The dispatcher was calm and asked if we were in immediate danger. I looked around the cabin at the closed doors, the hallway, the staircase. "I don't know," I said. "Someone has been inside." While we waited for police, Daniel messaged again. "Please don't leave upset." Mara screamed at her phone. "Who are you?" The reply came back. "You forgot the basement light on." We all looked toward the kitchen. There was a door beside the pantry. We had assumed it was a closet. None of us had opened it. A thin line of yellow light showed beneath it. Jenna started backing away. Then something knocked from the other side. 3 slow knocks. Not loud. Polite. Like someone asking to be let in. Liv sobbed, "No, no, no." I could feel my pulse in my ears as I fumbled for my car keys. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. We ran. Not gracefully. Not like people in movies. We grabbed whatever bags were closest and left half our things behind. Mara slipped on the wet porch steps and scraped her knee. Jenna dropped her phone in the gravel and almost went back for it until I grabbed her arm and screamed at her to leave it. We piled into my car. As I reversed down the driveway, the porch light flickered. Once, twice, then the front door opened. No one stepped out. At least, no one we could see. But the rocking chair by the window began moving. Slowly. Back and forth. Back and forth. Police met us halfway down the road. 2 deputies, both polite, both clearly expecting this to be some dispute with a strange property owner. We showed them the messages. We showed them the photos. That changed their faces. They went back to the cabin while we waited in the car with the heat blasting. I remember staring through the windshield at the rain sliding down the glass, thinking nothing looked real anymore. One deputy came back about 30 minutes later. He said they searched the house. No one was inside. The basement door was open. The light was on. There were footprints in the dust down there, but he couldn't say how old they were. Then he asked us something that made my skin go cold. "Where did you say you booked this place?" Mara told him. He frowned. "That cabin isn't supposed to be listed anywhere." The Real owner arrived about an hour later. His name was Paul. He was in his 60s, tired looking, wearing a rain jacket over pajama pants like he'd been pulled out of bed. He was angry at first. Not at us exactly, but at the situation. He said the cabin belonged to his family and hadn't been rented out in years. Mara showed him Daniel's profile. Paul went completely still. I watched the color drain from his face. "That's my brother," he said. Nobody spoke. Paul took the phone from Mara carefully, like it might burn him. "His name was Daniel," he said. "He died 8 years ago." The rain sounded louder after that. Paul explained it in fragments. Daniel had lived in the cabin with his wife, Elise. She had died first, from an illness he didn't describe. After that, Daniel became strange. Isolated, protective of the house in a way that made people uncomfortable. Then one winter he died too. Heart failure, Paul said. Alone in the cabin. The place had been closed for years except for occasional maintenance. Paul swore he had no listing online, no host account, no way anyone should have been able to book it. The deputies didn't know what to do with that. You could see it in their eyes. Police like evidence. They like locks, footprints, suspects, cameras. They don't like dead men sending messages. They took reports. They photographed the envelopes. They kept the Polaroids. The rental site removed the listing 2 days later. Mara got a refund and an automated apology that sounded like it had been written by a machine with no understanding of fear. But before the listing disappeared, I checked Daniel's profile one last time. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted proof that it had been real. His profile picture had changed. It was no longer him waving from the porch. It was the four of us standing in the cabin doorway the night we arrived, smiling with our bags over our shoulders before anything had happened. The photo was taken from inside the house. I deleted the screenshot after staring at it for almost an hour. I wish I hadn't. I also know I couldn't keep it. It has been 3 years now. I don't stay in rentals anymore. Hotels only. Chain hotels with front desks and cameras and people in uniforms. I check closets when I enter rooms. I cover peepholes. I unplug alarm clocks. I don't sit with my back to windows. Mara still gets quiet when someone mentions cabin trips. Jenna refuses to use rental apps. Liv moved apartments twice because she couldn't sleep if she heard floorboards creak above her. People ask me sometimes what I think really happened. I don't know. Maybe someone hacked an old listing. Maybe some living person used Daniel's identity, hid in the basement, and vanished before police arrived. That explanation should comfort me. It doesn't, because no one has ever explained the messages coming in when there was no service, or the locked door, or the photograph taken from my bedroom while I was awake, or how the host knew which chair Mara sat in before any of us noticed it mattered. And sometimes late at night, when my apartment is quiet and my phone lights up for no reason, I still think about that cabin, the warm lights, the rain on the windows, the rocking chair moving by itself, and that first message, so polite it almost sounded kind. Please don't sit there. It was my wife's favorite. Story 2. The first time I noticed her, I thought it was a stranger ruining our picture. That's the honest truth. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone across the room. I didn't even feel scared at first. I just zoomed in, frowned, and said, "Who is that?" It was the first night of our graduation beach trip, and there were supposed to be 4 of us. Me, Hannah, Priya, and Lauren. For girls who had survived high school together, barely. For girls who had promised each other we'd do one last trip before college scattered us into different cities and different versions of ourselves. But in the photo, standing behind us near the dark glass of the balcony door, there was a 5th girl. She was about our age, maybe 17 or 18. Long brown hair, pale skin, a faded blue hoodie. She stood just far enough in the background that her face wasn't clear, but close enough that there was no mistaking it. She was looking straight at the camera. My name is Ellie. I'm 23 now, but this happened when I was 18, the summer after graduation. We rented a little beach house on the Oregon coast, about 20 minutes outside of Lincoln City. It wasn't fancy, but to us it felt like freedom. White paint peeling near the windows, a sagging porch, wind chimes made of seashells. The kind of place that smelled like salt, damp wood, sunscreen, and old blankets. We got there around 4 in the afternoon. It had been raining earlier, so the sky was gray and low, and the beach looked empty in that strange way beaches do when the weather is bad. Not peaceful exactly, more like the whole place was holding its breath. Still, we were excited. We dragged our bags inside, fought over bedrooms, ordered pizza, and played music too loud from Lauren's speaker while Hannah took 100 pictures of everything. Hannah was always the picture person. She took photos of receipts, sunsets, ugly signs, half-eaten food, anything. She said memories didn't count unless you could prove them later. That sentence bothers me now. That night, after pizza, we took a group photo in the living room. We set my phone on the coffee table, propped against a candle, and used the timer. In the picture, we were all sitting on the couch in pajamas, laughing with paper plates in our laps. And behind us, near the balcony door, stood that girl. I remember the room going quiet when I showed them. Lauren squinted at the screen. "That's creepy," Priya said. "Maybe it's a reflection." Hannah took the phone and zoomed in until the picture broke into pixels. "There's nobody here," she said. We all looked toward the balcony door. Outside was only black glass, rain streaks, and the faint reflection of our living room lamps. The door was locked. I checked it myself. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the hallway made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. It turned out to be the old house settling. At least, that's what we told ourselves. We deleted the photo. That was the first mistake. The next morning, everything felt normal again. The sun came out. The beach was bright and cold, with patches of mist lifting off the water. We walked barefoot, even though the sand was freezing. Lauren complained the whole time. Priya collected smooth little stones, and Hannah made us pose near a pile of driftwood. We took pictures all morning. Selfies, jumping pictures, stupid fake candid pictures where none of us looked candid. At lunch, we went to a small seafood place with sticky menus and plastic baskets. While we waited for fries, Hannah started scrolling through the beach photos. Then she stopped. Her face changed. Not dramatically, not like in a movie. It just went flat. She turned the phone around. In the picture, the four of us were sitting on the driftwood, arms around each other, hair blowing in the wind. Behind us, standing near the waterline, was the same girl. Blue hoodie, brown hair, bare feet in the wet sand. The beach behind her was empty in every other photo taken seconds before and after. But in that one, she was there facing us. Hannah whispered, "Okay, that's not funny." None of us laughed. Priya tried to be logical. She said someone probably walked into the shot, and we hadn't noticed because the beach was windy and we were distracted. But I remembered that beach. I remembered turning around after the photo because the wind had blown sand into my mouth. There was no one behind us. The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting when we drove back to the house later. But my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. That evening, Lauren searched the house. She opened closets, checked under beds, looked behind shower curtains, even went through the little laundry room off the kitchen. Hannah recorded her doing it because she was nervous and making jokes. "Welcome to our ghost hunt," Hannah said, trying to sound brave. "If we die, tell my mom I loved her." "Don't say that," Priya snapped. That was the first time I heard fear in her voice. We didn't find anyone, but we did find something. In the hallway closet, under a stack of extra towels, there was an old disposable camera. It was dusty yellow and cracked at the corner. None of us had brought it. Lauren held it between two fingers like it was dirty, probably left by another guest. "Does it have pictures?" I asked. Hannah looked at the little counter on top. It said one photo left. Nobody wanted to touch it after that. We put it back under the towels and agreed not to talk about it. That night, I woke up around 2:17 in the morning. I know because my phone was on the nightstand. The house was completely silent except for the refrigerator humming in the kitchen and the ocean somewhere far outside. At first, I didn't know why I was awake. Then I heard a camera click. Not a phone sound. A real camera. A sharp little mechanical click from the hallway. I sat up so fast my blanket slid off my legs. The bedroom door was open a few inches. I always slept with doors closed, but I told myself maybe I had forgotten. Maybe one of the girls had opened it looking for the bathroom. Then the hallway floor creaked. Slowly. One step, then another. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone. Someone was watching, and I had no way out. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The hallway was empty, but at the far end, near the closet, the door was open. Just a little. In the morning, I told the others. Lauren said I probably dreamed it, not in a mean way. She looked scared when she said it. Priya suggested we leave. Hannah didn't say anything for a while. Then she pulled out her phone and showed us the video she had taken during the closet search the night before. At first, it was just Lauren opening doors and making stupid jokes. Then near the end, when Hannah turned the camera toward the hallway mirror, something moved behind her reflection. A girl in a blue hoodie walked past the bedroom doorway. Fast, like she knew exactly where she was going. We watched it 6 times. Nobody spoke. Finally, Lauren said, "There was no one there." And Hannah said, "I know." We packed after that, not dramatically, not screaming, just quietly, with shaking hands and half-zipped bags. While I was stuffing clothes into my backpack, Priya called the rental owner. She put it on speaker. An older man answered. He sounded confused when she explained there might be someone on the property. "What listing?" he asked. Priya frowned. "The beach house listing. We booked it online." There was a pause. Then he said, "I don't rent that house anymore." The room went still. He told us his sister used to manage it years ago, but she had passed away. After that, he stopped renting it out. The listing shouldn't exist. He hadn't approved any guests. Priya said, "Then who have we been messaging?" The man didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was lower. "Did the message name say Mara?" None of us moved. The host's name on the app was Mara. I remember Hannah dropping onto the bed like her knees had stopped working. The owner asked us to leave immediately. He said he would call the police and meet us there. But before Priya could hang up, the lights went out. Not flickered. Went out. The house became gray and cold around us. Lauren started crying. Hannah kept saying, "No, no, no," under her breath. Priya was still holding the phone, but the call had dropped. Then all four of our phones buzzed at the same time. One message. From the host. "Don't leave without taking one last picture." I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling as I fumbled for the keys. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. We ran. Not cleanly. Not like people do in horror movies. Lauren tripped over her own bag. Hannah forgot her phone and had to turn back for it. I couldn't get the front door unlocked because my fingers wouldn't work. Priya shoved me aside and opened it herself. The porch was slick with rain. The sky had turned dark again, even though it was barely noon. We made it to the car, throwing bags into the back seat without caring what got left behind. I was the one driving. As I started the engine, Hannah gasped. She was looking at the upstairs window. The house had no reason to have anyone upstairs. We had searched it. We had slept there. We had been alone. But in the window stood the girl in the blue hoodie. This time we could see her face. And that was when something inside me shifted. Because she didn't look like a stranger. She looked familiar. Not in a way I could place. More like a name on the tip of your tongue. A face from a dream you forget the second you wake up. Her expression wasn't angry. It was worse. She looked hurt. I drove too fast down the narrow road toward town. Nobody told me to slow down. We met the owner and two police officers at a gas station about 15 minutes away. The owner was a tired-looking man named Richard. He kept rubbing his face while we explained everything. The police were polite, but I could tell they didn't know what to do with four crying girls talking about a person in photos. Then Hannah showed them the pictures. The officers stopped smiling. Richard stared at the phone for a long time. Then he said something I will never forget. "That's Mara's daughter." Priya whispered, "What?" Richard told us Mara had a daughter named Claire. Claire had been 18 when she died. Years earlier, 5 girls had stayed at that same beach house for a spring break trip. There had been an accident near the water at night. One girl didn't come back. Her name was Claire. The official story was that the girls had been drinking, wandered down to the beach, and Claire slipped near the rocks. Her body was found the next morning. The other girls were so traumatized they supposedly couldn't remember the details clearly. Richard said Mara never recovered. She became obsessed with the idea that Claire had been forgotten by the friends who left her behind. Then he looked at us strangely. "What high school did you girls graduate from?" I told him. His face went pale. He said Claire had gone there too. I started to tell him he was wrong. I had never known a Claire. None of us had. Then Hannah made a sound like she couldn't breathe. She opened her phone and went into an old Cloud album from freshman year. Random pictures, cafeteria tables, gym bleachers, school dances, dumb bathroom mirror selfies. In one photo, taken 4 years earlier, there were 5 girls sitting at lunch. Me, Hannah, Priya, Lauren, and Claire, blue hoodie, brown hair, smiling like she belonged there. My mind refused it at first. I kept saying, no, that's not real. But the more we looked, the worse it got. Claire was in dozens of old photos. At my birthday party, at Hannah's house, in the background of a school play, standing beside us at a freshman football game, her arm around Lauren's shoulders. There were comments under old posts from people saying, "You five are always together." 5, not 4. My hands went numb. It felt like finding a missing room in your own house. A whole person had been cut out of my memory, but not out of the world. We didn't go back to the beach house. The police did. They found our bags inside, lined up neatly in the living room. On top of them was the disposable camera from the closet. All the photos had been used. Richard later told us the house had been locked when officers arrived. No sign of forced entry. No footprints that made sense. No one hiding inside. The disposable camera was developed a week later. There were 27 pictures. Most were old. Very old. They showed 5 girls at the beach years earlier. Younger versions of us, laughing in the kitchen, sitting on the porch, running toward the water in hoodies and shorts. Claire was in every photo. Then came the last few pictures. They were from our trip. Us sleeping. Us packing. Us standing in the hallway, unaware the camera was pointed at us from inside the closet. And the final photo was taken from the balcony, looking into the living room. The 4 of us were on the couch. Behind us stood Claire, but this time her face was clear. She wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking at me. Even after escaping, even with the safety of the police lights behind me, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying the face I'd seen through the window. The calm, empty eyes that didn't blink. I wish I could tell you we recovered, and everything made sense eventually. It didn't. Memories came back in pieces. A laugh in the hallway at school. A blue hoodie draped over a chair. A girl named Claire singing badly in the back seat of Lauren's car. And then the worst one. The beach at night. Cold wind. Someone crying. One of us saying, "Don't tell." I still don't know exactly what happened to her. Maybe none of us do. Or maybe some part of us has always known and buried it so deep that it took Claire coming back in every photo to make us look. Hannah deleted most of her social media after that. Priya moved across the country. Lauren refuses to talk about the trip at all. As for me, I don't take group photos anymore. People think that's dramatic. Maybe it is. But every now and then, someone will send me a picture from a party or a dinner or some ordinary night when I forgot to be careful. And before I even open it, I feel that same cold pressure in my chest. Because the scariest thing isn't seeing someone who shouldn't be there. It's realizing they were always there. And somehow, you were the one who forgot. Story 3. The first time I realized the day was repeating, I was standing barefoot on cold marble in a hotel hallway, staring at a maid who smiled at me like she had been waiting for that exact second. She was holding a stack of white towels against her chest. And before I could say anything, she tilted her head and said, "Good morning, miss. Beautiful day for the beach." The words hit me so hard I forgot how to breathe. Because she had said the same thing yesterday. Same hallway, same towels, same smile, same tiny crack in her voice on the word beach. My name is Lana. I was 22 when this happened. At the time, I lived in Manchester, England, and I had just finished university with 3 of my closest friends, Priya, Ellie, and Morgan. We were tired in that specific way you get after years of deadlines, exams, cheap coffee, and pretending you have your life figured out. So we booked a 5-night trip to a luxury resort in southern Spain. It was supposed to be a reward. The resort was called Maravilla Cove, and online it looked almost unreal. White buildings stacked into the cliffs, glass balconies over the sea, palm trees around a long blue pool, staff in cream uniforms carrying trays of drinks with little slices of orange on the rims. When our taxi pulled up, Ellie actually laughed and said, "No way we're staying here. We're not rich enough." But we were. 4 or 5 nights, at least. The lobby smelled like lemon polish and expensive perfume. Somewhere nearby, a piano version of an old pop song played softly. The receptionist, a woman with perfect red lipstick, greeted us before we even gave our names. "Welcome back, girls," she said. We all paused. Priya smiled awkwardly. "Back?" The receptionist blinked once, then corrected herself. "Welcome, girls. Sorry. Long day." I remember noticing that. I also remember letting it go. That's how these things start. One strange sentence, One weird look, one moment that feels wrong, but not wrong enough to ruin the mood. Our room was beautiful. 2 big beds, a pull-out sofa, balcony doors that opened to the sea, and a bathroom bigger than my bedroom back home. We changed into swimsuits, sprayed too much perfume, and went down to the pool like we belonged there. That first afternoon was perfect. Almost too perfect. There was a couple arguing quietly near the pool bar. The woman had blonde hair tied in a low bun, and the man wore sunglasses even in the shade. I noticed them because she kept saying, "You said she was gone," and he kept telling her to lower her voice. At the same time, the same song played every hour from the speakers. A slow, dreamy summer song with a woman humming before the lyrics started. I didn't know the song, but after the 3rd time, I could hum along. That night, we had dinner at the resort restaurant. Our waiter introduced himself as Tomas. "First night?" he asked. "Yeah," Morgan said. "We just arrived." His smile slipped, only for a second. Then he said, "Of course. Enjoy your stay." I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but there was something about the way he looked at us. Not creepy exactly, more like pity. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight coming through the curtains and the same song playing faintly outside. Priya was already awake, sitting up in bed, staring at her phone. "What time is it?" I mumbled. 8:17, she said. Then Ellie groaned from the other bed. "Why is that song playing again?" We got dressed and went downstairs for breakfast. The receptionist looked up from behind the marble desk and smiled. "Welcome back, girls." This time, all 4 of us heard it. Morgan laughed. "You said that yesterday." The woman's smile stayed fixed. "Did I?" At breakfast, the same family sat near the windows. Same little boy dropping a spoon. Same father sighing. Same mother saying, "Leo, please." Near the pool, the same couple argued in the exact same spot. "You said she was gone," the woman whispered. And the man said, "Keep your voice down." Priya stopped walking. "Okay, that's weird." Ellie shrugged, but I could tell she was uncomfortable. Maybe rich people are just repetitive. We tried to make a joke out of it. We spent the day at the beach. We took photos, swam, ordered overpriced drinks, and told ourselves we were being dramatic. But that evening, when we returned to our room, there was a white towel folded on the sofa. On top of it was a bracelet. It was a cheap little thing. Blue beads. A silver charm shaped like a shell. None of us owned it. Morgan picked it up and frowned. "Did housekeeping leave this?" Priya said, "Why would housekeeping leave jewelry?" I touched the charm, and for reasons I still can't explain, my stomach turned cold. That night, I dreamed of a girl standing at the edge of the pool. She was about our age. Dark hair, yellow sundress, bare feet. She looked at me and said, "You came back." I woke up sweating. The next morning, the song was playing again. 8:17. Same light through the curtains. Same spoon dropping at breakfast. Same couple arguing. Same maid in the hallway holding towels. "Good morning, miss," she said. "Beautiful day for the beach." My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized something was watching us through the shape of an ordinary day. "Igopteam." Not hard, just enough to stop her. "Why do you keep saying that?" The maid looked down at my hand, then back up at me. For a moment, her face changed. The smile disappeared. Her eyes filled with fear. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. Then the elevator dinged behind us, and she pulled away so quickly the towels fell from her arms. When I looked back, she was smiling again. "Good morning, miss. Beautiful day for the beach." I ran back into the room and told the others. That was when we decided to leave. No swimming, no breakfast, no pretending. We packed our bags in 10 minutes and went down to the lobby. The receptionist smiled. "Checking out?" "Yes," Ellie said. "Now." The woman typed something into her computer. Then she frowned. "I'm sorry. I don't have a booking under any of your names." Morgan leaned over the desk. "That's impossible. We checked in 2 days ago." The receptionist looked genuinely confused. "I'm afraid you must be mistaken." Priya pulled up the confirmation email. The screen was blank. Not deleted. Blank. The subject line was there, but the body had no text. No dates. No hotel name. Nothing. My hands started shaking. I checked my own phone. Same thing. Photos from the trip were gone too, except for one. A picture from the pool on our first day. The four of us stood smiling with drinks in our hands. Behind us, near the pool bar, stood a girl in a yellow sundress. Dark hair, bare feet, blue bracelet on her wrist. Ellie whispered, "Who is that?" None of us answered. We went outside to find a taxi, but the driveway was empty. The road leading away from the resort curved down the hill toward the town, so we started walking. The heat was sharp. Cicadas buzzed in the bushes. The sea glittered below like nothing bad had ever happened there. We walked for maybe 15 minutes before Priya stopped. Ahead of us, around the bend, was the entrance to Maravilla Cove. Same white sign, same fountain, same valet in cream uniform. We had walked away from the resort and ended up back at the front door. Morgan started crying then. Not loud, just quiet tears, like her body had accepted something her mind couldn't. We tried again. Same result. Every path curved back. Every call failed. Every message stayed stuck on sending. By sunset, we were back in the room, exhausted and silent. That was when someone knocked. 3 soft taps. Ellie opened the door before I could stop her. No one was there, but on the floor was a room key card. Room 417. We were in 312. Priya said, "Absolutely not." But we all knew we were going. Room 417 was on the top floor, at the end of a hallway that smelled faintly of damp carpet. The key worked. Inside, the room was dark and dusty, nothing like ours. The bed was unmade. A suitcase sat open on the floor. Clothes were still inside. On the desk was a passport. The girl's name was Clara Hayes, 22 years old, from Leeds. There were photos scattered beside it. Clara at the pool, Clara with friends, Clara standing in the lobby. And in every photo, something had been scratched out. Not someone, Clara herself. Her face was scraped away in each picture, leaving pale, torn marks where her smile should have been. Priya found a small notebook in the bedside drawer. Most pages were filled with the same sentence, written over and over. "They forget me every morning." The last page had only one line. "If someone remembers, I can leave." Behind us, the TV clicked on. Static filled the screen. Then a shaky video appeared. Clara stood on the balcony, crying quietly. The camera was pointed at her from inside the room, like someone had been filming without her knowing. A man's voice said, "You should have left it alone." Clara turned. The screen went black. Then the resort song began playing from the TV speakers. Loud. Too loud. The door slammed shut behind us. My pulse was in my ears as I fumbled for the key card. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. Morgan was pulling at the handle. Ellie was shouting. Priya kept saying, "No, no, no," under her breath. Then I saw the balcony doors. They were open. Outside, in the dark reflection of the glass, Clara stood behind us. Not bloody, not monstrous, just pale and sad and terribly still. She lifted her wrist. The blue bracelet was gone. I looked down at my hand. I was holding it. I don't remember picking it up. Clara whispered, "Remember me." The room door opened by itself. We ran. We didn't stop at our room. We didn't stop in the lobby. We ran straight toward the pool, where the same couple stood arguing in the dark. "You said she was gone," the woman said again. This time I screamed, "Clara Hayes." Everything stopped. The music cut out. The pool lights flickered. Every staff member turned toward me at once. The receptionist stepped from the lobby doors, her red smile gone. Tomas stood near the restaurant, holding a tray with trembling hands. The blonde woman covered her mouth and began to sob. And the man in sunglasses took one step back. I said it again, louder. "Clara Hayes." The man turned and ran. Not like a ghost, like a guilty person. Security appeared from nowhere, but they didn't chase us. They chased him. The whole resort seemed to breathe out. The next thing I remember, we were on the road outside the gates. Real cars passed. My phone had signal. Priya called the police with shaking hands. When officers arrived, they found us sitting on the curb, sunburned, barefoot, and hysterical. At first, they thought we were drunk or high. Then I showed them the bracelet. A detective later told us Clara Hayes had disappeared from Maravilla Cove 9 years earlier. She had been there with friends after graduation. Her case went cold. The resort had changed owners twice. People said she left after an argument. People said she ran away. People said a lot of things when they wanted a clean story. But after that night, police searched an old maintenance area under the east wing. They found her suitcase tag, her phone, and enough evidence to reopen the case. The man from the pool wasn't a guest. He had been part of the original resort staff years before, working under a different name. I don't know what happened in court. I didn't follow every detail. I couldn't. Just seeing the resort's name made me feel sick. People ask me if I think we were really trapped in Clara's memory. I don't know. I know what repeating feels like. I know the exact sound of a spoon dropping at breakfast. I know the same song can become a warning. And I know that sometimes a place can look beautiful because it has learned how to hide what happened there. It's been years now. I still don't like resorts. I don't like hotel hallways. I don't like staff who greet me by name before I tell them who I am. And every time I hear a soft summer song playing near a pool, I look around for a girl in a yellow dress. I never see her. But sometimes, just for a second, I feel like someone has stepped close behind me. And I hear a voice in my head, quiet and desperate. Remember me. Story 4. I still remember the exact moment I realized the girl sitting across from me was not my best friend. It wasn't because her face had changed. It hadn't. It wasn't because her voice sounded wrong. It sounded exactly like Riley's voice. Soft, a little raspy from laughing too much, with that lazy way she stretched certain words when she was tired. It was because she smiled at me across the campfire and said something she should not have known. Something nobody knew. Not my parents. Not my closest friends. Not even Riley. My name is Megan. I was 21 when this happened, and at the time I was living in Western Oregon, going to community college part-time and working weekends at a grocery store. My life was not exciting. I went to class, stocked shelves, helped my mom with my younger brother, and spent most nights lying in bed scrolling through my phone until I hated myself for being awake. Riley was the exciting one. She was the type of girl who made ordinary things feel like they belonged in a movie. Gas station coffee, rainy drives, cheap motels, small hikes on foggy mornings. She had this way of making everyone around her feel braver than they actually were. That spring, she convinced 4 of us to take a weekend hiking trip near the Santiam State Forest. There was me, Riley, our friend Cassie, Cassie's cousin Brooke, and a girl from Riley's photography class named Hannah. We weren't serious hikers. We had matching backpacks from Target, too many snacks, and one of those printed trail maps Riley insisted on bringing because she said, "Phones die. Paper doesn't." We laughed at her for that. I still think about that. We left on a Friday afternoon in Brooke's old Subaru. It had fast food napkins stuffed in the doors and a cracked windshield shaped like a lightning bolt. The drive up was beautiful in that quiet Oregon way, all wet trees and gray sky and road signs with moss growing on them. By the time we reached the trailhead, the air had turned cold enough that we could see our breath. The place looked normal. That's what bothers me the most now. There were no warning signs. No creepy old man staring from the woods. No dead animal on the path. No strange symbol scratched into a tree. Just a gravel parking lot, a wooden board with faded trail information, and the smell of pine needles soaked from last night's rain. We planned to hike about 3 miles in, set up at a legal campsite near a small creek, stay the night, and come back the next morning. Easy. Riley kept stopping to take pictures. "Riles," Cassie said after the 5th stop. "The trees look the same in every photo." Riley held up her camera without turning around. "That's because you don't have artistic vision." "She has storage problems," Brooke said. Riley laughed, and for the first couple of hours, everything felt completely normal. Then the fog came in. It moved through the trees slowly, almost like smoke. At first it was pretty. Hannah took videos of it drifting across the trail and whispered that it looked cinematic. But after a while, the forest got too quiet. Not silent exactly. There was still the crunch of our shoes, the slap of wet branches against our jackets, the creek somewhere far below us. But all the small sounds disappeared. No birds, no bugs, no distant hikers, just us. Around 4 in the afternoon, Riley said she needed to pee and stepped off the trail behind a cluster of trees. We kept walking for maybe 20 seconds before Cassie realized. "Wait, where's Riley?" "She just went right there," I said, pointing behind us. We called her name. No answer. At first, nobody panicked. We laughed awkwardly, assuming she was messing with us or embarrassed. Cassie shouted, "Riley, we can literally hear you peeing," even though we couldn't. Still nothing. Brooke cupped her hands around her mouth. "Riley." The fog made her voice sound flat, like it hit something invisible and dropped. I walked back to the spot where Riley had stepped off the path. There was a muddy slope, ferns, trees, and nothing else. No Riley. No movement. No voice. My stomach tightened, but I told myself it was nothing. People don't vanish in 20 seconds. She probably wandered a little too far. Maybe she saw something worth photographing. We searched for almost an hour. We yelled until our throats hurt. We checked behind trees and down the slope. Cassie started crying quietly, angry tears, like she was mad at Riley for making her scared. Then, just as Brooke said we needed to go back to the parking lot and call someone, Riley walked out of the fog. She came from the direction of the trail ahead of us. Not behind us. Ahead. She was smiling. That was the first thing I noticed. Her clothes were damp. Her boots had mud on them. A thin scratch ran across one cheek. But she looked calm. Too calm. "Where the hell were you?" Cassie yelled. Riley blinked at her like the question confused her. "I got turned around," she said. "For an hour? Was it that long?" Brooke stared at her. "You came from ahead of us." Riley looked down the trail, then back at Brooke. "I guess I looped around." There was no loop. We had the map. It was a narrow trail cut into a hillside, with thick forest on one side and a drop on the other. But nobody wanted to say that out loud. I remember looking at Riley's hands. They were hanging at her sides, fingers slightly curled, like she had forgotten what to do with them. "You okay?" I asked. She looked at me and smiled again. "Yeah, Meg. I'm fine." She almost never called me Meg. Only my grandmother called me that, but I let it go because I wanted everything to be fine. That's how these things happen, I think. Not because people are stupid, because your brain will do almost anything to keep the world normal for a little longer. We reached the campsite before dark. It was a flat clearing near a creek, with a blackened fire ring and logs arranged like benches. Someone had left a torn blue tarp tied between two trees, snapping softly in the wind. We set up 2 tents. Cassie and Brooke shared one. Hannah slept alone because she claimed she kicked in her sleep. Riley and I shared the other. After we ate, we sat around the fire with our jackets zipped up to our chins. The flames kept blowing sideways. Smoke got in our faces. Everyone was quieter than before. Riley wasn't. She seemed almost happy. She kept asking questions. At first they were normal. "Do you remember senior year homecoming? Do you still talk to your dad? Did Hannah grow up around here?" But then they got strange. She asked Brooke about a scar on her knee from a bike accident Brooke had never told us about. Brooke laughed and said, "Did Cassie tell you that?" Cassie frowned. "No." Riley just smiled and poked the fire with a stick. Then she turned to Hannah. "Your brother's name is Eli, right?" Hannah looked surprised. "Yeah. He used to sleep in your closet when he was little because he thought the hallway had faces." Hannah's smile disappeared. "How do you know that?" Riley tilted her head a little. "You told me." "No, I didn't." Nobody said anything after that. The creek moved in the dark behind us, constant and cold. I tried to catch Riley's eye, hoping she would give me some look that said, "I'm joking, calm down." She didn't. She just stared at Hannah with that same soft smile. Later, when we got into the tent, I asked Riley what had happened in the woods. She was sitting cross-legged on her sleeping bag, brushing dirt from under her nails. "I told you," she said. "I got turned around. You scared us." "I know." Her voice was gentle, almost kind. Then she looked up at me and said, "You used to hide food under your bed when your mom's boyfriend lived with you." My heart sank into my stomach. I couldn't move. The tent suddenly felt too small, the nylon walls pressing close, our breath fogging in the cold air. "What?" I said. Riley watched my face carefully, like she was studying how fear worked. "You were 12, she said. "You kept granola bars in a shoebox because you were scared he'd lock the kitchen again." I had never told anyone that. Not Riley. Not Cassie. Nobody. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of movement outside the tent made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. "Why would you say that?" I asked. Riley's smile faded, but not in a normal way. It didn't drop because she felt bad. It faded like she had realized smiling was the wrong response. "I'm sorry," she said. She lay down and turned away from me. I did not sleep. I lay there all night listening to Riley breathe. Except sometimes she didn't. Sometimes the tent was so quiet I thought she had stopped completely. Then after a minute or two, she would inhale deeply like someone remembering they were supposed to. Around 3 in the morning, I heard someone crying outside. It was faint, coming from somewhere beyond the creek. A girl's voice. At first I thought it was Hannah. Then I realized Hannah's tent was behind ours, and the sound was coming from the trees. I slowly sat up. Riley was already awake. She was lying on her side, facing me, eyes open. "Don't go out there," she whispered. The crying continued. Soft, shaky, far away. Then I heard my name. "Megan." I stopped breathing. Outside, the voice came again. "Megan, please." It sounded like Riley. Not the Riley beside me. The real Riley. I reached for the zipper. Riley's hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Her fingers were ice cold. "Don't," she said. I stared at her. "What is that?" She didn't answer. The crying outside changed. It became thinner, stretched by distance and trees. "Meg," it called. Riley's grip tightened. For the first time since she came back, her calm cracked. Her face twisted with something close to panic. "Don't listen to it," she whispered. I pulled my wrist away and scrambled backward until my shoulder hit my backpack. Riley sat up slowly. The thing outside sobbed again. Cassie yelled from the other tent. "Do you guys hear that?" Brooke said, "Is that Riley?" The Riley in my tent closed her eyes. When she opened them, they looked empty. Not black, not glowing. Nothing dramatic like that. Just empty. Like a house with every light turned off. Then she smiled, and in Cassie's voice, perfect and clear, she called, "Stay in your tent." Cassie screamed. Everything after that happened fast and messy. I grabbed my phone. No service. Of course. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. The zipper on our tent started moving. Not from my side. From Riley's. She was opening it slowly. Outside, the fog had thickened until the trees were just dark vertical lines. The fire was dead. The clearing looked pale and flat under the moon. Hannah burst out of her tent barefoot, crying, holding a flashlight that shook wild circles over the trees. Brooke and Cassie came out right after her, and then we all heard it, Riley's voice from the woods. "Please, I'm cold." Cassie clapped both hands over her mouth. The Riley beside me stepped out of the tent and stood in the clearing. She looked toward the woods. Then she looked back at us. Her face was calm again. "She's lying," it said. I don't know why that broke me more than anything else. Not "it's lying." She, like it knew exactly who was still out there. Brooke grabbed Cassie's arm. "We're leaving. Now." We didn't pack. We didn't take the tents. I shoved my feet into my boots without tying them. Hannah kept saying, "No, no, no," under her breath like a prayer. We started toward the trail. The thing wearing Riley followed. Not running, not rushing, just walking behind us, a few steps back. "Guys," it said in Riley's voice, "you're going the wrong way." Nobody answered. The woods were awful in the dark. The trail looked different. Branches slapped our faces. Mud sucked at our shoes. The fog turned our flashlights into weak white cones that showed almost nothing. Behind us, Riley's voice kept talking. At first it begged, then it got annoyed, then it started telling secrets. Cassie's eating disorder in 9th grade, Brooke stealing money from her mom's purse, Hannah's brother getting sent away for setting fires. Then me. Megan cried in the bathroom after graduation because nobody took a picture with her first. I started sobbing, not because it was the worst thing it said, but because it was true. Because Riley had found me that night and hugged me and told me people were idiots. The real Riley, the one still lost somewhere in the dark. We reached a fork that none of us remembered. Brooke shouted, "This wasn't here." Cassie spun around. "Where is she?" The trail behind us was empty. No Riley, no footsteps, no movement. Then my phone vibrated. I almost screamed. A notification lit up my screen. One photo received. No service. No bars. Nothing. But there it was. A picture of the four of us from behind, standing at the fork, taken from maybe 10 feet away. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling as I fumbled with the phone. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. Then another photo came through. This one was of Riley, the real Riley. She was sitting at the base of a tree, face pale, one hand pressed to her ankle. Her eyes were wide and terrified. Behind her, barely visible between the trees, stood a shape wearing her red rain jacket. The jacket the other Riley was still wearing. Hannah saw the photo and made this small broken sound. Brooke grabbed my phone and looked at it. "There," she said. "That marker. Look." In the corner of the photo was a trail marker nailed to a tree. A blue diamond with the number 6. Brooke had seen it earlier, before Riley vanished. "It's back near where we lost her," she said. Cassie shook her head hard. No, we are not going back." From somewhere ahead of us, Riley's voice called, "Cassie?" Then from behind us, the same voice called, "Megan?" Then from our left, then our right, all around us, Riley's voice, splitting through the forest. Brooke grabbed my sleeve. "Run downhill," she said. "Water leads somewhere." It was the only smart thing anyone said all night. We left the trail and crashed through the woods toward the sound of the creek. I fell twice. Hannah lost one shoe. Cassie kept calling Riley's name until Brooke screamed at her to stop. At the creek, we followed the water downstream. The bank was slick and steep. My legs were numb. My lungs burned. I kept thinking something was just behind my shoulder, close enough to touch my hair. Once I looked back. Between the trees, I saw Riley standing perfectly still. The wrong Riley. Her head was tilted. She was watching us like she had all the time in the world. We found the road just before sunrise. A logging road, narrow and muddy, but it was a road. Brooke almost collapsed when she saw tire tracks. We walked for maybe 20 minutes before a white pickup appeared through the fog. The driver was an older man with a thermos and a dog in the passenger seat. He didn't believe us at first. I wouldn't have believed us either. For girls crying, covered in mud, one barefoot, saying our friend was missing and also somehow following us. But he let us pile into the truck bed and drove until he had service. Search and rescue found Riley 6 hours later. Alive, barely conscious. Her ankle was broken. She was dehydrated and confused. She said she had fallen down a slope after stepping off the trail and hit her head. She remembered hearing us calling, but every time she tried to shout back, she said another voice nearby answered first. Her own voice. She said it kept telling her to stay quiet. When we visited her in the hospital, she cried when she saw us. That was when I knew she was really Riley, because she looked scared and exhausted and human. She didn't remember coming back to camp. She didn't know about the secrets. She didn't know about the photos. The police took our statements. A ranger suggested we had gotten disoriented, panicked, confused Riley with shadows, and maybe received the photos later when service returned. That explanation would have been comforting. Except I still had the photos. The one of us at the fork. The one of Riley by the tree. There was no sender. No number. No timestamp that made sense. They disappeared from my phone 2 days later. All of them did. Every photo from that trip, even the ones from before. Gone. It has been 4 years. Riley doesn't hike anymore. None of us do. We don't really talk about that weekend, even when we're together. Sometimes I catch her looking at me like she wants to ask if I think something followed us out. I don't know what to tell her, because last winter, I was walking home from work just after closing. The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting, with porch lights glowing through the rain and cars parked along the curb. But my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. When I reached my apartment building, someone was standing across the street under a tree, a girl in a red rain jacket. She was too far away for me to see her face clearly, but I knew she was smiling. I ran inside and locked the door. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone. Someone was watching, and I had no way out. For 3 hours, I sat on my bathroom floor with every light on, holding a kitchen knife I knew I would never be brave enough to use. Nothing happened. No knock, no voice, no footsteps in the hallway. But at 3:17 in the morning, my phone buzzed. One photo. It was me asleep in my bed, taken from the corner of my room. I moved the next week. New apartment, new job, new number. I don't post where I am. I don't tag locations. I don't go near the woods. But sometimes, when I'm half asleep, I hear Riley's voice outside my window. Soft, patient, almost kind. "Megan," it whispers. And the worst part is, it doesn't sound like a monster. It sounds like my friend, like it has been practicing. Story 5. I still remember the exact second the music stopped. Not faded out, not skipped, stopped. One moment we were driving through dark pine roads with Taylor singing low from the speakers, and the next, the car filled with my own voice. Not from a phone call, not from a video, from the radio. I heard myself say, clear as anything, "I don't like this road." And then my friend Jenna laughed from the back seat and said, "You never like anything after midnight." The only problem was, I hadn't said that yet. My name is Mara. I was 22 when this happened, and at the time I was living in a little apartment outside Portland with 2 roommates, too many iced coffee cups in my car, and the kind of confidence you have when you're young enough to think bad things happen somewhere else. That summer, my best friend Natalie invited 3 of us to her uncle's lake house for a weekend. It was supposed to be our last real girls' trip before everyone moved away or started jobs or became too busy to answer group texts. There were 4 of us. Me, Natalie, Jenna, and Elise. Natalie was the planner. Pretty sharp, always in control without looking like she was trying to be. Jenna was loud in the best way. She could make a gas station bathroom feel like a party. Elise was quieter, sweet, the type who asked if everyone had eaten and remembered small things about people. I was the nervous one, I guess. Not scared of everything, just cautious. The lake house was about 5 hours away, deep in a part of Oregon where the roads start losing streetlights and your phone stops pretending it has service. We left late because Jenna got off work at 7, and Natalie insisted we'd be fine driving overnight. "It'll be fun," she said, tossing her duffel bag into the trunk. Empty roads, music, snacks, no traffic. The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting, but my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. I didn't know that yet, of course. At first, everything felt normal. We stopped at a drive-thru for fries. Jenna took blurry pictures of us with the flash on. Elise made a playlist called Lake House Girls Weekend in all caps. Natalie drove because it was her car, a dark blue Subaru with a cracked phone mount and a tiny silver cross hanging from the rearview mirror, even though she wasn't religious. The first hour was all laughing. We talked about college, bad dates, jobs we hated, people from high school who had gotten married too fast. The kind of conversation that doesn't feel important while it's happening, but later you remember every word because it was the last time things felt simple. Around midnight, we passed the last real town. The road narrowed after that. Tall trees pressed in on both sides, black and thick, catching the headlights in quick pale flashes. The air had that damp forest smell, even through the vents. Rain had fallen earlier, so the asphalt shone like oil. Elise was in the front passenger seat, using Natalie's phone to control the music. Jenna and I were in the back. I was half asleep against the window when the first strange thing happened. The song cut out. For 2 seconds, there was silence. Then the speakers crackled, and Jenna's voice came on. I swear if there are spiders in this house, I'm sleeping in the car. We all froze. Then Jenna laughed. Wait, what? Was that me? Elise looked down at Natalie's phone. It's not playing anything. The song just disappeared. Natalie frowned at the dashboard. Bluetooth probably glitched. Then my voice came through the speakers. You said that at the gas station. And I had. I remembered saying it while holding a bag of chips near the register. The recording was clean. Too clean. Like the microphone had been right in front of my mouth. Jenna leaned forward between the seats. Did someone record us? No, Elise said, turning the phone screen toward us. I don't even have voice memos open. Natalie kept her eyes on the road. My car does this sometimes. It connects to random audio files. What random audio files of us talking today? I asked. Nobody answered. Then the playlist resumed like nothing had happened. A soft pop song filled the car again, cheerful and completely wrong for the way all of us had gone quiet. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of rain under the tires and the endless dark outside made me sit up straighter. 10 minutes later, it happened again. This time, it was Elise's voice. Nat, did you tell your uncle we were coming tonight? Elise looked over at Natalie slowly. The recording continued. Natalie's voice answered, yes. Stop worrying. That conversation had happened an hour earlier. I remembered because Elise had asked it while we were pulling out of the drive-thru, and Natalie had sounded annoyed. Jenna grabbed her own phone. Okay, no. That is creepy. She checked her videos. Nothing. I checked mine. Nothing. Elise checked Natalie's phone again and said, there's a file playing. What file? Natalie asked too fast. Elise read the screen. Track 9. Road trip playlist. That's the playlist name, Jenna said. No. The playlist is called Lake House Girls Weekend. Natalie snatched the phone from Elise's hand. Not violently. Just quickly enough that all of us noticed. It's just a cache thing, she said. Spotify does weird stuff when there's no service. We had no service, that part was true. My phone showed one dead bar, and then nothing. Jenna tried to make a joke. Great. Haunted Spotify. Love that. But nobody laughed properly. The third recording came 20 minutes after that, when we were deep enough into the forest that I hadn't seen another car in a long time. This one started with static. Then I heard myself say, I don't like this road. My stomach tightened. I stared at the speakers. Then Jenna's voice came through, laughing lightly. You never like anything after midnight. The car went dead silent except for the engine. Because that conversation had not happened. Not yet. Natalie's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Elise whispered, Did you say that earlier? No, I said. Jenna's face had changed. She wasn't smiling anymore. Then the recording continued. Elise's voice, thin and nervous, said, Maybe we should turn around. Natalie's voice answered, We're almost there. The file ended. A second later, Natalie said in real life, We're almost there. My heart sank into my stomach. Jenna whispered, Nope. Elise looked like she might cry. Natalie, pull over. Natalie didn't. She just stared at the road, jaw tight, eyes catching the dashboard light. We are not pulling over in the middle of nowhere, she said. Jenna reached forward and hit pause on the console. Then turn around. Natalie slapped her hand away. Not hard, but enough. Don't touch my car. That was the first moment I felt afraid of her. Not the radio, not the forest. Natalie, because fear does something to people. It makes them confused, loud, shaky. Natalie wasn't shaky. She looked irritated, like we were ruining something. Elise said, Why are you acting like this? Natalie glanced at her. Like what? Like you know what's happening. The car went quiet again. Then the speakers clicked. A new file began. This time, Natalie's voice came first. Low. Close. They can't know before we get there. The car swerved slightly. Natalie reached for the screen and jabbed at it, trying to stop the audio. But it kept playing. A man's voice answered. Not one of ours. We said she deleted the messages. Natalie cursed under her breath. Jenna screamed, "Who is that?" Natalie hit buttons, twisted knobs, even turned the whole system off. The man's voice continued through the speakers. Bring them to the house. No stops. No calls. Then Natalie's voice said, I told you, I can handle Mara. Jenna's the problem. My skin went cold. I don't remember breathing. Elise said, barely audible, Natalie. Natalie finally slammed the car into park, so hard we all lurched forward. We were stopped in the middle of the road, trees on both sides, headlights pointing into empty darkness. For 1 second, nobody moved. Then Natalie grabbed her phone from the cup holder and started deleting something. Her fingers moved fast. Jenna leaned forward. What are you deleting? Nothing. Give me the phone. No. Jenna tried to take it. Natalie shoved her back with one arm and screamed, Stop. That scream didn't sound scared. It sounded cornered. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling, as I fumbled for the door handle. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. But the child lock was on. I pulled again. Nothing. Jenna tried hers. Locked. Elise looked at Natalie in complete disbelief. You locked us in? Natalie was breathing hard now. You don't understand. Then explain, I said. She turned around, and her face was pale in the dashboard glow. For a second, she almost looked like our Natalie again. Then she said, I needed money. That sentence did something to the air in the car. It made everything real. Not ghost real. Not weird radio real. Real real. Jenna whispered, What did you do? Natalie shook her head. It wasn't supposed to be bad. They just wanted to scare you. Take your cards. Maybe your phones. That's all. Elise covered her mouth. I thought of the lake house. Remote. No service. Nobody expecting us. I thought of the man's voice. Bring them to the house. No stops. No calls. Jenna started kicking the back of Natalie's seat. Unlock the doors. Natalie turned back to the wheel and put the car in drive. That was when Elise moved. She grabbed the steering wheel. The car jerked sideways. Natalie shouted. Tires scraped gravel at the edge of the road. For one terrible second, I saw nothing but black trees swinging across the windshield. Then the car slammed to a stop against something hard. Not a crash exactly, more like a violent bump. The engine sputtered. The headlights flickered. And then the radio came on again. My voice filled the car, but it was crying now. Please, just let us go. Then a man said, Open the trunk. Natalie screamed and ripped the keys from the ignition. The recording stopped. Outside, the forest was silent. Then headlights appeared behind us. Far back at first. 2 white dots between the trees. Coming closer. Natalie stared at them. So did we. No one said anything until Jenna whispered, Is that them? Natalie didn't answer. That was answer enough. Elise reached over and hit the unlock button on the driver's door. The locks clicked. We all moved at once. Jenna and I spilled out into the cold night, half falling onto wet gravel. Elise climbed over the console because Natalie grabbed her sleeve, but Jenna yanked Elise free so hard they both stumbled. Natalie shouted after us, Don't run. They'll find you. That made us run faster. We went into the trees. Not smart. Not planned. Just panic. Branches slapped my face. My shoes sank into mud. I could hear Jenna sobbing somewhere ahead, Elise breathing in sharp little gasps beside me. Behind us, another car stopped on the road. Doors opened. A man called, Natalie? His voice was calm. That scared me more than yelling would have. We crouched behind a fallen log maybe 30 feet from the road. I pressed my hand over my own mouth because I was breathing too loud. Through the trees, I saw shapes moving in the headlights. 2 men. Natalie stood beside her car, arms wrapped around herself. One of the men said something I couldn't hear. Then Natalie pointed toward the woods. Elise made a tiny sound. Jenna grabbed her hand. We ran again. I don't know how long we moved through that forest. 5 minutes. 15. Time didn't make sense. My legs burned. My lungs felt raw. Every snapping twig behind us sounded like a footstep. At some point, Jenna tripped and hit the ground hard. I wanted to stop, but Elise grabbed me and hissed, "Get her up." We pulled Jenna to her feet. That was when we saw a light ahead. Not headlights. A porch light. A small cabin sat off a dirt access road, barely visible through the trees. There was an old truck parked outside and smoke coming from the chimney. We ran to the door and started pounding. An older man answered in sweatpants, holding a flashlight like a weapon. The second he saw us, muddy and crying, his face changed. "Inside," he said. No questions, no hesitation. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone in a stranger's cabin. Someone was watching outside, and I had no way out if he was one of them too. But he wasn't. His name was Mr. Hanley. He was a retired school custodian who lived out there year-round. He locked the door, gave Elise a blanket, and called 911 from a landline. A landline. I had never been so grateful for something so old. While he talked to the dispatcher, headlights rolled slowly past the cabin window. We all dropped to the floor. Mr. Hanley turned off the porch light. The car outside slowed. Stopped. I could feel my pulse in my ears again. A beam of light moved across the curtains. Jenna was shaking so badly her teeth clicked. Then someone knocked. 3 soft taps. Mr. Hanley didn't move. A man's voice called from outside, polite and flat. "Car trouble. Need to use a phone." No one breathed. The doorknob turned once. Locked. Then the man laughed softly. Not like a movie villain. Just amused. Like we were making this inconvenient. A few minutes later, the headlights moved away. Police got there 23 minutes after the 911 call. I know because I stared at the clock on Mr. Hanley's microwave the entire time, convinced every minute would be the last normal minute of my life. They found Natalie's car abandoned. Natalie was gone. So were the 2 men. For a while, police treated it like a robbery setup that fell apart. Then they searched Natalie's apartment and found enough to prove she had been talking to those men for weeks. Money transfers, deleted messages recovered from her laptop, screenshots of our group chat, a map to the lake house, and audio files. That was the part nobody could explain at first. The recordings weren't supernatural. I wish they were. Ghost stories are cleaner than real people. Elise had unknowingly connected her phone to a shared folder earlier that week when Natalie sent her a packing list link. It gave Elise's phone access to a private folder that Natalie thought only she could control. But Natalie had made one mistake. She had turned on automatic audio backup for calls and voice notes with one of the men. And for some reason, the car kept pulling from that folder whenever the music lost service. Some of the future recordings were not actually future recordings. They were rehearsals. Natalie had practiced what she would say to keep us calm. "We're almost there. Don't worry. Stop being dramatic." She had planned our fear before we even felt it. But there was one file police never found in the folder. The one with my voice crying, "Please, just let us go." None of us recorded that. None of us ever said it. The detectives told me trauma can confuse memory. They said maybe I heard something else and filled in the words later. They said the mind does strange things when it's terrified. Maybe they're right. I don't know. Natalie was found 3 days later at a bus station 2 counties over. She claimed the men forced her into it. Then she said she thought it was only a prank. Then she stopped talking completely. The men were never caught. Even after escaping, even with the safety of the police lights behind me, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying the face I'd seen through the cabin window. The calm, empty eyes that didn't blink. That part still hasn't left me. It's been 4 years. I don't take overnight road trips anymore. I don't let other people drive me somewhere remote. I don't connect my phone to anyone's car. I don't open shared folders, even from friends. Jenna moved away and barely talks about it. Elise still sends me a message every year on the date it happened. Just one sentence. We're still here. I never respond right away. I always need a minute, because sometimes I think about Natalie's playlist. Not the songs, the recordings, the way the truth came through in fragments, trying to warn us while we laughed it off, explained it away, called it a glitch. That's what bothers me most. Not that someone betrayed us, not even that we almost disappeared into those woods. It's that the warning was there. It spoke in our own voices, and one of us kept trying to delete it. Story 6. The first thing I noticed was that the hallway shouldn't have gone that far. Hotels are usually predictable. Ice machine near the elevator. Carpet that smells faintly damp. Beige walls. Doors in neat rows with little gold numbers screwed into them. But that hallway just kept stretching. Room 301, 303, 304, 305. Then at the very end, where there should have been a wall or a fire exit, there was another door. 309. I remember standing there with the key card in my hand, listening to the low hum of the lights above us, and feeling this quiet, awful certainty settle over me. We were not supposed to be there. My name is Claire. I was 24 when this happened. At the time, I lived in Sacramento and worked front desk at a dental office, which meant most of my life was phone calls, appointment reminders, and pretending not to notice when patients lied about flossing. My friends and I had planned a weekend trip to the coast because we were tired. Not broken, not running from anything dramatic, just tired in the way you get in your 20s when everyone acts like you should be having the best years of your life. But mostly you're just paying rent and answering emails. There were 4 of us. Me, Hannah, Priya, and Elise. We booked 2 nights at a small hotel outside Monterey. It wasn't fancy, but it looked clean online. White comforters, ocean view breakfast room, a lobby fireplace. The kind of place that feels safe because it's boring. We arrived Friday night, later than planned, because traffic had been awful and Hannah insisted on stopping twice for snacks. By the time we pulled into the parking lot, fog had rolled in from the water. It pressed against the hotel windows like smoke. The neon sign outside buzzed softly, half the letters dimmer than the others. The lobby was empty except for one receptionist behind the desk. She looked about my age, maybe a little older, with tired eyes and a cardigan pulled tight around her shoulders. She smiled when we came in, but it didn't reach her face. "Checking in?" she asked. Hannah gave her name. The woman typed for a while, then frowned. "I have you in room 214, she said. "That sounds right," Hannah replied. The receptionist slid over one key card in a paper sleeve. Then she stopped. Her expression changed in this small, strange way, like she had just remembered something unpleasant. She opened a drawer, reached inside, and pulled out a second key card. "This one was with your reservation too," she said. On the paper sleeve, someone had written 309 in blue pen. Hannah laughed. "We only booked 1 room." The receptionist looked at the sleeve and shook her head. "That's impossible." "What is?" "There is no room 309. We all went quiet for a second. Then Elise smiled in that nervous way people do when they want something to stay funny. "Maybe your hotel has a secret floor," she said. The receptionist didn't smile. "We don't have a 3rd floor with guest rooms," she said. "Just storage and staff access. The elevator doesn't even go there." She reached for the key card, but Hannah pulled it back playfully. "Can we keep it as a souvenir?" The woman's face went pale. "No," she said quickly. "Please give it back." And I don't know why Hannah didn't. Maybe because the receptionist's fear made the whole thing feel like a prank. Maybe because we were tired and wired from the drive. Maybe because sometimes the worst decisions don't feel like decisions when you make them. Hannah tucked the key into her jacket pocket and said, "We'll bring it down later." The receptionist stared at her for a long second. Then she whispered, "Don't go looking for it." Room 214 was normal. 2 queen beds, 1 chair by the window, a TV that looked older than us, and a bathroom with little wrapped soaps. The window looked out over the parking lot, where our car sat beneath a flickering light. For the first hour, everything felt fine. We ordered pizza, changed into sweats. took turns showering. Priya put on some reality show none of us were really watching. But I kept thinking about that key. So did Hannah. Around midnight, she pulled it from her pocket and held it up between two fingers. "Should we check?" she asked. "No," Priya said immediately. Elise threw a pillow at her. "Absolutely not." But she was smiling. I wish one of us had been serious enough to stop it. We took the elevator down first, just to see if the receptionist was still there. She wasn't. The lobby was empty. A small sign on the desk said back in 10 minutes. The elevator buttons only went up to 2. There was number 3. "That settles it," Priya said. "Back upstairs." Then Hannah noticed the stairwell door near the ice machine. It didn't say staff only. It just said stairs. The street looked ordinary through the lobby glass, quiet, even comforting, with fog sliding under the parking lot lights. But my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face, and sometimes it wears ugly hotel carpet and cheap brass numbers. We went up, 2nd floor, then another flight. At the top, the stairwell light flickered. There was a door with no sign on it. Hannah pushed it open. The hallway on the other side was colder than the rest of the hotel. Not freezing, just wrong, like the air had been shut inside too long. The carpet was the same pattern as our floor, but faded. The walls were the same beige, but stained in places. The lights hummed so loudly it felt like pressure behind my eyes. There were doors, but most had no numbers. Then we saw 301. Hannah whispered, "No way." Nobody laughed this time. We should have turned around. I know that. I think all of us knew that. But there's this terrible curiosity people have when fear is still small enough to pretend it's entertainment. We walked. 301, 302, 303, 304. At the end of the hall was 309. The door looked newer than the others. Clean paint, silver handle, no scratches around the lock. Hannah took out the key card. Priya grabbed her wrist. "Don't." Hannah looked at me. I wanted to say no. I wanted to be the reasonable one. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "Just open it and look." The little light on the lock blinked green. The door clicked. My heart sank into my stomach as the door opened inward, and I realized the room was already lit. It wasn't a hotel room. Not exactly. It had 2 beds like ours, the same cheap artwork above them, the same brown curtains. But everything inside looked staged, too perfect, like a room waiting for people who were late. For suitcases sat at the foot of the beds. One navy blue, one red, one gray, one black. Each had a luggage tag. Claire, Hannah, Priya, Elise. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Elise said very softly, "That's not funny." Because they looked like our suitcases. Not similar. Ours. Same scratches. Same ribbons on the handles. Same dent in Hannah's red case from when she dropped it in the airport 2 years earlier. I stepped closer, though every part of me wanted to back away. My suitcase tag had my full name on it. Claire and Whitaker. I had never used my middle name on the hotel booking. Priya was crying quietly now. "We need to leave." Hannah opened her suitcase. Inside were clothes I recognized. My gray sweatshirt, Elise's green pajama pants, Priya's makeup bag, but underneath them were things we hadn't packed. A folded newspaper, a hotel receipt, a printed missing persons flyer. Hannah picked up the flyer with shaking hands. It showed a photo of us, all 4 of us. The picture had been taken in the lobby earlier that night, from behind the receptionist's desk. Under the photo, in bold black letters, it said, "Missing, for women last seen at Harbor Pines Hotel." The date was Sunday, 2 days later. I felt the room tilt. "No," Hannah whispered. "No, this is fake." Then the phone on the nightstand rang. The sound tore through the room so suddenly that Elise screamed. 1 ring. 2. 3. I don't know why I answered it. Panic makes you stupid. It makes your hands move before your brain can stop them. I lifted the receiver. There was breathing on the other end. Then a girl's voice whispered, "Don't let the elevator take you down." The line went dead. I dropped the phone. At that exact moment, someone knocked on the door. 3 soft taps. Not from outside in the hallway. From the closet. Priya grabbed me so hard her nails dug into my arm. The closet door was shut. Beneath it, there was no gap of light, just darkness. Then another knock came. Tap, tap, tap. Hannah backed toward the door to the hallway. We're leaving. The room key stopped working. She yanked the handle again and again, but it wouldn't open. From inside the closet came a sound like someone gently dragging fingernails down wood. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, to convince myself this was some elaborate hotel prank. But the whisper of movement from that closet made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. Elise started sobbing. Please, please, please. Then the closet door opened 1 inch. That was enough. Hannah threw her shoulder into the room door. Once, twice. On the 3rd time, it flew open, so suddenly she fell into the hallway. We ran. I don't remember deciding to run. I just remember the hallway lights flashing overhead and the sound of our bare feet slapping against the carpet. We had all come upstairs in socks, like idiots. Behind us, a door opened. Not slammed. Opened. Slowly. I looked back once. A girl stood in the doorway of room 309. She looked about our age. Wet dark hair hanging around her face. A hotel towel wrapped around her shoulders. Her skin had the grayish look of someone who had been under fluorescent lights too long. But the worst part was her expression. She didn't look angry. She looked sorry. The elevator at the end of the hall dinged. The door slid open. Inside, the light flickered. Priya started toward it, but I grabbed her hoodie and pulled her back so hard she nearly fell. The phone, I gasped. She said don't take it, so we ran for the stairs instead. The stairwell door was heavier than before. I remember pulling it with both hands, my palms slick, my breath coming out in sharp little sounds. We stumbled down the stairs, so fast Elise twisted her ankle on the landing and screamed. Hannah and I carried her between us. When we reached the 2nd floor, the door wouldn't open. Neither would the 1st. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling as I fumbled with the handle. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. Then from below us, someone laughed. A man, low and quiet, not close, but inside the stairwell. We climbed down 1 more flight and found a door that shouldn't have been there. It had a small wired glass window, and through it I saw the lobby. The receptionist was behind the desk. She was staring straight at us. I pounded on the glass. Her face crumpled. She ran over and shoved the door open from her side. We spilled into the lobby, crying and shaking, all talking at once. She locked the stairwell door behind us. Then she turned to Hannah and slapped her. Not hard enough to hurt her badly, just hard enough to shock us all silent. I told you not to go looking, she said. Hannah didn't even argue. She just stood there holding her cheek, trembling. The receptionist called the police. Then she called the hotel manager. While we waited, she made us sit in the lobby where she could see us. Her name was Marcy. She told us room 309 had been reported before, always by women traveling together. Usually young women. Usually late check-ins. Always someone had been accidentally given a key. The hotel had no official room 309. No record of it. No 3rd floor guest hallway. Maintenance had checked. Police had checked. Fire inspectors had checked. There was a storage level above the 2nd floor, yes, but no rooms. Then Marcy told us the part one still think about. 3 years before our trip, 4 college girls had disappeared from that hotel. They had checked in on a Friday night. Their car was found in the parking lot. Their bags were found in their room. They were never seen leaving on camera. The only strange thing in the report was that one of the mothers kept insisting her daughter had called her at 2:13 in the morning, whispering that there was another room upstairs. Police arrived and searched the hotel. Nothing. No 3rd floor. No room 309. No girls. After that, strange things started happening. Keys appeared. Calls came from empty rooms. Guests complained about hearing girls crying above them when there was nothing but locked storage overhead. And the people who go into that room, Marcy said, voice barely above a whisper, don't always come back down. Police came. They searched the stairs. They searched the storage level. There was no hallway. Number 309. No suitcases. No girl in the doorway. One officer looked annoyed, like we had wasted his time. Another looked unsettled but tried to hide it. They told us maybe someone had accessed a restricted maintenance area. Maybe we were tired. Maybe fear had made us misunderstand what we saw. But none of them could explain the key card. Because it was real. It was still in Hannah's pocket. When the manager scanned it at the desk, the system showed the room number as 309. Then the computer froze. A minute later, the reservation disappeared entirely. We left before sunrise. We didn't pack properly. We just threw everything into bags and drove home in silence. Elisa's ankle was swollen. Priya kept turning around in the passenger seat, staring through the back window like she expected someone to be sitting there. About an hour outside Monterey, Hannah asked me to pull over. She opened her suitcase on the side of the road and started crying. Inside was a hotel towel, damp, folded neatly on top of her clothes. Nobody had put it there. That was 6 years ago. The Harbor Pines Hotel closed the next year. I looked it up recently, even though I know better than to look up things I'm trying to forget. It was bought by some developer, then left empty after permits fell through. The building is still there, according to Street View. Windows boarded, parking lot cracked, sign removed. But sometimes reviews still appear online. Not many, just 1 or 2 a year. They're always from women. They always mention being given the wrong key. And they always say the same thing near the end. The 3rd floor hallway is longer than it looks. I don't stay above the 2nd floor anymore. I don't use hotel stairwells unless someone is with me. I check room numbers twice. I never joke with front desk staff when they look scared. And when I travel with friends, I make sure everyone comes home in the same car. Because that room felt less like a place and more like a waiting list. A room for girls who laugh too loudly in lobbies. Girls who think warnings are part of the fun. Girls who walk upstairs just to see. And the worst part is, I still remember the girl in the doorway of 309. Those tired eyes. That wet hair. That silent, sorry expression. I don't think she was trying to scare us. I think she was trying to tell us that once a room learns your name, it doesn't forget it. And sometimes, when I'm half asleep in a hotel bed and I hear the elevator ding somewhere down the hall, I still expect my phone to ring. I still expect a girl's voice to whisper through the dark. Don't let it take you down. Story 7. The first thing she said when she walked into the lodge was, "Sorry I'm late." I brought the champagne. That was it. No dramatic entrance. No thunder. No screaming. Just a woman standing in the doorway with wet hair, a silver overnight bag, and a bottle of champagne tucked under one arm like she belonged there. And the strange part is, for a few seconds, all of us acted like she did. My name is Megan. I'm 26 now, but this happened 2 years ago, during my cousin Natalie's bachelorette weekend in the mountains outside Asheville, North Carolina. Natalie wasn't just my cousin. She was basically my sister growing up. Our moms were close, we lived 10 minutes apart, and most of my childhood memories had her in them. Sleepovers, pool days, school dances, bad haircuts, all of it. So when she got engaged, I was one of the bridesmaids. The trip was supposed to be simple. 6 girls, 1 rented lodge, matching pajamas, cheap decorations, wine, music, and 2 nights away from work, bills, wedding stress, and real life. It was the kind of trip where nothing was supposed to happen. The lodge was about 30 minutes up a winding road, tucked between thick trees that made the whole place feel cut off from the world. It had a big stone fireplace, wooden walls, old framed pictures of bears and lakes, and windows that turned black after sunset. There was no cell service unless you stood by the kitchen window and held your phone up like an idiot. Still, the first night was perfect. We cooked pasta, played music, made Natalie wear a cheap plastic veil, and took pictures by the fireplace. Everyone was laughing too loudly. Everyone was trying too hard to make it memorable. That's what makes it worse now. Because when I look back, I wonder how much of that night was real happiness, and how much was all of us trying to avoid something none of us could name. The first weird thing happened around midnight. We were sitting in the living room when Natalie suddenly stopped laughing and looked toward the front door. "What?" I asked. She blinked. "Nothing. I thought I heard someone knock." We all got quiet. The lodge settled around us. Wind pressed against the windows. Somewhere outside, branches scraped softly against the siding. "No knock." Lauren, one of the bridesmaids, laughed and said, "If this turns into a horror movie, I'm blaming you for renting a cabin in the woods." Natalie smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm serious," she said. "It sounded like 3 knocks." We checked the porch. Nobody was there. Only rain, darkness, and the long gravel driveway disappearing between the trees. I told myself it was nothing. That's what you do at first. You explain things away because the normal version of life is easier to live inside. The next day, we went into town for brunch. It was foggy and cold, and all the little shops had wet signs hanging outside. Natalie seemed distracted, but I figured she was tired. Wedding planning had made her emotional lately. At brunch, the waitress brought 7 waters. There were 6 of us. She placed the extra glass at the empty chair at the end of the table. Natalie stared at it. The waitress noticed and said, "Oh, sorry. I thought someone was sitting there." We all looked at the chair. It was pushed out slightly, like someone had just gotten up. Lauren made a joke about our ghost bridesmaid, and everyone laughed, except Natalie. She didn't touch her food after that. That evening, we got back to the lodge just before dark. The rain had started again, steady and thin, tapping on the roof and dripping from the pine branches. We were getting ready for the second night. Matching black pajamas, bride sash, games, more wine than anyone needed. Around 8:30, headlights moved across the living room wall. I remember that clearly because I was standing near the fireplace, taping up a crooked banner that said "Last Fling Before the Ring." The room went quiet. A car door shut outside. Then came 3 knocks. Not loud, just calm. Knock, knock, knock. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone near the entryway. Someone was outside, and somehow everyone was waiting for me to open it. Natalie whispered, "Don't." But Lauren was already walking over. She opened the door. A woman stood on the porch with rain shining on her jacket. She looked about our age, maybe a little older. Dark blonde hair, pale face, calm smile. She wore a green coat and carried that silver bag. "Sorry I'm late," she said. "I brought the champagne." Nobody answered. The woman looked past Lauren into the room and smiled directly at Natalie. "Nat," she said softly, "you look beautiful." Natalie's face went blank. Not scared exactly, more like her mind had stepped away from her body. Lauren turned back to us. "Who is this?" The woman laughed a little, like she thought Lauren was joking. "It's Claire." Claire. The name didn't mean anything to me. At least, I thought it didn't. The strange thing was how quickly we let her in. That's the part one still hated admitting. Nobody wanted to be rude. Nobody wanted to be the paranoid one. It was a bachelorette trip, and everyone assumed someone else knew her. I assumed she was one of Natalie's work friends. Lauren assumed she was family. Natalie's college friend, Bree, assumed she was from high school. And Natalie just stood there, smiling too tightly, saying nothing. Claire stepped inside, took off her wet coat, and placed the champagne on the kitchen counter. Then she looked around the lodge and said, "Wow, this place is nicer than the one by the lake." Natalie dropped her cup. It hit the floor and cracked. Claire looked at her and tilted her head. "You remember that one, right?" No one spoke. Natalie bent down too quickly to pick up the broken pieces, and I saw her hands shaking. I followed her into the kitchen a few minutes later. "Do you know her?" I whispered. Natalie didn't look at me. "I don't know," she said. That answer made no sense. "What do you mean you don't know?" She swallowed. I don't think I do." But Claire knew things. That became obvious fast. She knew Natalie hated strawberries, but pretended to like them because her mom loved strawberry cake. She knew I had broken my wrist in 5th grade jumping off Natalie's porch. She knew Lauren used to sleep with a nightlight until middle school. Small things, private things. The kind of things you don't post online. The kind of things only someone from your childhood would know. At first, everyone tried to keep the mood normal. Claire was polite, almost too polite. She laughed at the right times, asked wedding questions, complimented the decorations. But every now and then, she said something that made the air leave the room. During a game, Bree asked Natalie, "Who's your first best friend?" Natalie opened her mouth, then stopped. Claire smiled into her glass. "Careful," she said. "That answer changes depending on who's listening." I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the hallway made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. Claire wasn't in the hallway anymore. She had slipped away without anyone noticing. I found her upstairs. She was standing in Natalie's room, looking at the bridesmaid dresses hanging on the closet door. I stopped in the doorway. "You okay?" I asked. She didn't turn around. "I was supposed to be in the wedding," she said. My throat tightened. "What?" She finally looked at me. Her eyes were calm, but there was something cold underneath them. Not empty. Worse. Focused. "I was supposed to stand next to her," she said, "before all of you decided I didn't exist." I stepped back. The street outside the lodge looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting through the window. But my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. I went downstairs and pulled Natalie aside. "We need to ask her to leave." Natalie's face had gone pale. "She knows about the lake," she whispered. "What lake?" Natalie stared at me like she expected me to understand. Then she said, "I don't know." That was when the power went out. The lodge dropped into darkness. Everyone screamed, but only for a second. Then there was just breathing, rain, and the fireplace crackling low in the living room. Someone fumbled for phone flashlights. I looked toward the stairs. Claire was standing at the top. In the white glow from my phone, she looked almost flat, like a person in an old photograph. She said, "Should we play the game now?" Lauren snapped, "What game?" Claire came down slowly. "The one you played with me." Natalie started crying. Not loud, just quiet, helpless tears. Claire reached into her silver bag and pulled out a stack of photographs. Real printed photographs. She tossed them onto the coffee table. They slid across the wood, spreading out in front of us. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. Old pictures, childhood pictures. Natalie and me at maybe 9 or 10 years old. Lauren younger, missing teeth. A few other girls I recognized from the neighborhood. And Claire. She was in every picture. Claire at Natalie's birthday party. Claire sitting beside me on a trampoline. Claire holding Natalie's hand in front of a lake cabin. I backed away from the table. "No," I said, because I didn't remember her. Not even a little. Then one photo made my knees go weak. It showed 5 of us standing in front of an old wooden shed near a lake. The sky was gray. Natalie was laughing. Lauren was covering her mouth. I was holding a stick like a sword. Claire stood slightly behind us. She wasn't laughing. Her face was dirty, and written on the back of the photo, in faded marker, were the words, "Don't leave me in there." Natalie made a sound I had never heard from her before. A broken little gasp. Claire looked at her. "There she is," she said softly. "You remember now." I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling, as I fumbled for the keys in my pocket. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. But I didn't even know what door I was trying to unlock. Memories came back in flashes. A lake house, a dare, a storm cellar behind the shed. Claire crying because she didn't want to go inside. Natalie saying, "Stop being a baby." Lauren laughing. Me standing there, wanting to say no, but saying nothing. The door shutting. The latch dropping. Then rain. Adults calling our names. Our parents yelling. Someone saying Claire went home early. Someone else saying not to talk about it. After that, nothing. A clean, blank space where a person used to be. Claire watched us remember. She seemed satisfied by it. Not happy, just satisfied. Natalie whispered, "We were kids." Claire nodded. So was I. The front door suddenly opened behind us. Rain blew into the room. For 1 second, no one moved. Then Claire said, "Go ahead. Run." And we did. It was messy and pathetic. Lauren slipped on the porch steps. Bree was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Natalie wouldn't move until I grabbed her arm and dragged her. Claire didn't chase us. That made it worse. She just stood in the doorway watching. Even after escaping, even with the safety of the police lights behind me hours later, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying the face I'd seen through the window. The calm, empty eyes that didn't blink. The police found Claire's car still parked outside the lodge. They didn't find Claire. Inside the lodge, the photos were gone. So was the silver bag. The officers took statements, but we sounded insane. 6 grown women claiming a forgotten childhood friend appeared at a bachelorette party with proof of a memory none of us had. But a week later, Natalie's mother admitted part of it. There had been a girl named Claire. She had been Natalie's best friend. Something happened during a family lake trip when we were kids. Claire was locked in a storm cellar during a game. She was found hours later, terrified and barely responsive. After that, her family moved away. Our parents decided we were too young to understand what we had done, too young to carry it. So they stopped saying her name. Photos were removed from albums. Conversations were redirected. Questions were shut down until eventually we stopped asking. They called it protecting us. Claire called it erasing her. Natalie postponed the wedding. Then she canceled it. She doesn't talk to most of us anymore. I don't blame her. I've spent 2 years trying to decide whether Claire came to hurt us or just make us remember. Honestly, I think being remembered was the punishment. Because once a memory comes back like that, it doesn't leave quietly. Sometimes, I still wake up to 3 soft knocks in my dreams. Knock, knock, knock. And in the dream, I'm not 26. I'm 10 years old again, standing in the rain outside that cellar, listening to a girl cry in the dark while all of us pretend not to hear. People say childhood mistakes shouldn't define you forever. Maybe that's true, but some mistakes are not really mistakes. Some are choices you were too scared to stop. And sometimes the person you tried hardest to forget is the one who remembers everything. Story 8. The first rule said not to open the back door after midnight. The second rule said not to answer if someone knocked from the dock. The third rule said never say anyone's name near the water. We laughed when we found it, not because it was funny exactly, but because it felt like one of those things rental owners leave behind to make their lake house seem more interesting than it is. Like a fake haunted cabin gimmick. A little atmosphere for the guests. Something you'd mention in a review. Cute place. Creepy handwritten rules. 5 stars. But by the last night, when I was standing in that kitchen with my bare feet on the cold tile, listening to someone outside whisper my best friend's name from the lake, I wasn't laughing anymore. My name is Nora. I was 21 when this happened. At the time, I lived in Columbus, Ohio, and I was in my final year of college. My life was normal in that boring, safe way you don't appreciate until it's gone. I worked part-time at a coffee shop, took classes during the day, and spent most nights in my apartment eating cheap pasta with my roommates, pretending we were adults. My closest friends were Mara, Jess, and Talia. We'd known each other since freshman year. Mara was the confident one, the type who could talk her way into anything. Jess was quiet, practical, always checking the weather before road trips. Talia was funny in a dry way, always acting annoyed, but secretly taking care of everyone. That spring, we were all burned out. Finals were done, graduation was close, and none of us wanted to think about what came after. So Mara found a lake house online, about 2 hours away, tucked back in the woods near a small town I'd never heard of. The photos looked peaceful. Dark wooden walls, big windows facing the water, a little dock, a fire pit, old canoes stacked beside the shed. It wasn't luxury. It was more like someone's family cabin that had been cleaned up just enough for guests. We drove there on a Friday afternoon in Jess's old Subaru. The sky was gray, the kind of gray that makes everything look flat and quiet. The farther we got from the highway, the worse the phone signal got. Trees pressed close on both sides of the road, and every few minutes gravel popped under the tires like tiny bones cracking. Romantic, Mara said, looking out the window. Serial killer romantic, Talia muttered. I remember laughing. That still bothers me sometimes. The house sat at the end of a narrow dirt road. It was smaller than the photos made it look, but charming. A screened porch wrapped around one side, and the lake behind it was still and dark, reflecting the trees like glass. There were no other houses close by, just woods, water, and the soft ticking sound of branches tapping against the roof. The key was under a fake rock, exactly where the host said it would be. Inside, the house smelled like old pine, dust, and lemon cleaner. The living room had a stone fireplace, faded blue couches, and shelves full of board games with missing pieces. The kitchen was old but clean. There was a hallway with 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and at the back of the house, a sliding glass door opened onto the deck. That was where we found the rules. They were taped to the wall beside the back door, written on yellow notebook paper in black pen. Not printed, not laminated, handwritten. Mara read them out loud in a dramatic voice. House rules. Do not open the back door after midnight. Do not answer knocking from the dock. Do not leave shoes facing the lake. If you hear someone calling from the water, do not respond. Never say anyone's name near the water. If you wake up and the lake is closer, leave before sunrise. Jess stared at her. The lake is closer? Talia leaned over Mara's shoulder. That's not an Airbnb rule. That's a mental breakdown. I took the paper from Mara and looked at the handwriting. For a second, I felt something strange. Not fear exactly. More like recognition. Like hearing a song from childhood that you don't remember learning. The letters were slanted. The word midnight had been underlined 3 times. At the bottom, someone had written one more sentence, smaller than the rest. If you forget everything else, remember this. Mara opens the door. Mara laughed first. Well, rude. Jess didn't laugh. Why does it have your name? Because the host is probably creepy and looked at the booking, Mara said. Relax. But the booking was under Jess's name. I was going to say that, but Mara had already pulled out her phone to take a picture of the rules. Her camera froze. Not the phone, just the camera. The screen stayed black, then shut itself off. Okay, she said slowly. That was weird. We told ourselves it was bad signal. Old house. Low battery. Anything except what it felt like. That first evening was actually nice. We unpacked, made boxed pasta, opened a bottle of cheap wine, and sat on the deck wrapped in sweatshirts while the lake went black in front of us. Across the water, there were no lights. No boats. No voices. Just the occasional splash of something moving under the surface. At some point, Jess said, "We probably shouldn't say names out here." Mara groaned. "Please don't start." Talia smirked. "Yeah, Jess, the lake might steal our identities." Then Mara stood near the railing, cupped her hands around her mouth, and shouted, "Nora! Jess! Talia! Mara!" Her voice traveled across the water and came back thin and warped. I didn't like the echo. It didn't sound right. It sounded like someone else repeating us from very far away. That night, we went to bed around 1. We had completely forgotten about the midnight rule. I slept in the smaller bedroom with Talia. Mara and Jess took the bigger room across the hall. Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up to 3 soft knocks. Not from the front door, from behind the house. Knock, knock, knock. I lay still, staring at the dark ceiling. For a few seconds, I thought I'd dreamed it. Then Talia whispered from the other bed, "Did you hear that?" My mouth went dry. Another knock came. This one was slower. Knock. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the hallway made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. The bedroom door creaked open. Mara stood there in her oversized t-shirt, hair messy, face half lit by the hall night light. "Someone's outside," she whispered. Talia sat up. "Don't open anything." "It might be the owner," Mara said. At 2 in the morning, Mara didn't answer. She just turned and walked toward the kitchen. I got out of bed so fast I almost tripped on my bag. Talia followed me. By the time we reached the kitchen, Mara was standing in front of the sliding glass door with her hand on the lock. Outside, the deck was empty. Beyond it, the dock stretched into the lake like a dark finger. The knocking came again, this time from the dock. 3 soft taps against wood. Jess came out of the other bedroom, pale and confused. "What's happening?" "Mara," I whispered, "don't." Mara looked back at me, and for 1 second her expression was completely blank. Not sleepy, not annoyed, blank. Then she blinked and pulled her hand away from the lock. "Yeah," she said. "No, that's creepy." We all stood there until the knocking stopped. None of us slept much after that. In the morning, everything looked normal again. Sunlight on the kitchen floor, birds outside, coffee brewing, the lake shining like nothing had happened. That's the worst part about fear in daylight. It starts to feel embarrassing. Mara made pancakes and joked that the lake had rejected us. Talia said she was installing 3 locks when she got home. Jess checked the back door twice without saying anything. Then we noticed the shoes. All 4 pairs of our shoes had been moved during the night. They were lined up neatly by the sliding door, toes pointing toward the lake. None of us admitted to doing it. Jess wanted to leave right then. Mara said no. "We paid for the weekend," she said. And nothing actually happened. That was how she said it. Nothing actually happened. Sometimes you don't realize how dangerous that sentence is until much later. It becomes permission. It tells you to ignore the part of yourself that already knows. The second night, we decided to follow the rules. We locked the back door before midnight. We kept the curtains closed. We left every shoe facing the wall. We didn't go near the dock after dark. For a few hours, it worked. We played cards at the kitchen table. Rain started around 10, soft at first, then heavier, ticking against the windows. The power flickered once, and Jess immediately said, "Nope." But it stayed on. At 11:58, Talia checked her phone and said, "Everyone away from the back door." Mara rolled her eyes but got up. Then we heard Jess's voice outside. Not Jess inside the kitchen. Jess outside, from the lake. "Nora?" Jess froze in her chair. The voice came again, soft and wet and wrong. "Nora, come here." It sounded exactly like Jess. Same little crack in her voice. Same nervous edge. But Jess was sitting 3 feet away from me with both hands over her mouth. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone inside my own fear. Someone was watching, and it knew our voices. Talia grabbed my wrist under the table. No one moved. Then the voice changed. "Talia?" Talia started crying silently. The rain got harder. The windows blurred. The whole house seemed to lean toward the lake. Then came the knocking. Not from the dock this time. From the back door. Slow. Patient. Polite. Mara stood up. Jess hissed, "Sit down." Mara looked dazed again. Her eyes were open, but she didn't seem fully there. "I just want to see," she whispered. "No," I said, but she walked toward the door. I got there just before she did and grabbed her arm. She pulled against me with surprising strength. Talia rushed over and helped. Jess started yelling Mara's name, then stopped herself so hard she made a choking sound. Outside, something whispered through the rain. "Mara." The second it said her name, Mara went limp. She collapsed against me, shaking. The knocking stopped. For the rest of the night, we pushed the couch against the sliding door and sat together on the living room floor until sunrise. At dawn, Jess called the host. The call barely connected. Static kept cutting through her words. A man answered after the 5th try. Jess told him about the rules, the knocking, the voices, the shoes. There was a long pause. Then he said, "What rules?" Jess looked at us. "The handwritten rules by the back door," she said. Another pause. "There shouldn't be anything on the wall," he said. "The cleaning service removes all guest notes." Guest notes. That phrase made my skin crawl. The host asked if we wanted him to send someone out. Jess said yes. He told us the caretaker could arrive around noon. Noon came and went. No caretaker. No calls. By 3, the dirt road was flooded from the rain. Jess's Subaru wouldn't start. Mara's phone wouldn't turn on. Mine showed no service. Talia's kept displaying the wrong time. Over and over, 11:58. That afternoon, I found something under the mattress in our room. I was looking for my charger. My hand brushed paper. It was another note. Same yellow notebook paper. Same handwriting. Only this one was folded into a tiny square and shoved deep between the mattress and the bed frame. I opened it. My breath stopped. It said, "Nora, if you find this, don't trust the morning. You always think morning means you survived. You didn't. You just started again." I read it 3 times. Then I looked at the handwriting more closely. The slant of the letters. The way the word morning curved too sharply at the end. It was my handwriting. Not similar. Mine. I didn't tell the others at first. I know that sounds terrible, but I couldn't make sense of it. A part of me thought maybe I'd written it as a joke and forgotten. Another part of me knew that was impossible. That evening, the lake was higher. Not by much. Maybe a foot. But the bottom step of the dock was underwater, and the shore looked closer to the deck than it had before. Talia noticed too. She whispered, "Rule 6. If you wake up and the lake is closer, leave before sunrise." "We leave now," Jess said. The road was still flooded, but we packed anyway. Bags, keys, flashlights, whatever food we could carry. We planned to walk until we found signal or another house. We opened the front door. The lake was there. Not the driveway. Not the woods. The lake. Black water lapped gently against the porch steps. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Mara laughed once, a small broken sound. "That's not possible." The street looked ordinary in my memory, quiet, even comforting, but my gut told me something was off long before the world admitted it. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face, and sometimes it wears the face of a place you rented for the weekend. Behind us, from the kitchen, came a click, the back door unlocking. We ran. Not outside. There was nowhere outside to go. We ran to the hallway and locked ourselves in the bigger bedroom. Jess pushed the dresser against the door. Talia crawled into the closet with her phone, trying to call anyone. Mara sat on the bed, rocking slightly. Then someone knocked on the bedroom door. 3 soft taps. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling as I fumbled for the flashlight. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. A voice outside said, "Nora?" It was my voice. I stopped breathing. "Nora," it whispered again. "Open the door. I know how to fix it." Talia started praying under her breath. Jess picked up a lamp like she could fight whatever was on the other side. Then the voice said, "Tell them about the note." Everyone looked at me. I had no choice then. I showed them. Mara stared at the paper, then at me. "You wrote the rules," she said. "No," I said. "I didn't." But even as I said it, something opened in my mind. Not a memory exactly. A flash. Mara standing at the back door with her hand on the lock. Jess screaming. Talia pulled toward the dock by something we couldn't see. Me at the kitchen table, soaking wet, writing as fast as I could while the lake pressed against the windows. Another flash. The same weekend. The same house. The same rules. Different endings. Sometimes Mara opened the door. Sometimes Jess answered the knocking. Sometimes Talia said my name near the water. Sometimes I was the one who walked outside. And every time, the lake gave us morning back. Not to save us. To try again. I don't know how many times we had been there. I only know I had written the rules because I was the last one awake in one of those versions. I had written them for myself, hoping some part of me would remember. Outside the bedroom, my voice whispered, "You're running out of paper." Then Mara stood. She looked calmer than she had all weekend. "It wants names," she said. Jess shook her head. "Don't." But Mara walked to the window. The lake was right beneath it now, dark and still. No rain. No wind. Just water waiting. Mara opened her mouth. I tackled her before she could speak. We hit the floor hard. She fought me, sobbing, saying she was tired, saying she couldn't do it again, saying maybe if it took one of us, the others could leave. That was when Talia came out of the closet holding the yellow notebook. She had found it behind a loose wall panel. Most of the pages were filled with rules. Some crossed out, some rewritten. some stained and torn, all in my handwriting. On the last page, there was one sentence circled over and over. The lake keeps what is called, but it cannot keep what is unnamed. Jess understood first. Our names, she whispered. It only has our names because we keep using them. So we stopped. It sounds simple, almost stupid, but fear makes names feel necessary. You want to call out. You want to check if your friends are okay. You want to scream someone's name when they walk too close to danger. We didn't. We used no names. Not once. When the voice outside begged in Jess's voice, we stayed silent. When it cried like Mara, we stayed silent. When it knocked from the dock, then the kitchen, then the hallway wall right beside my head, we stayed silent. Just before sunrise, the bedroom door opened by itself. The hallway beyond it was dark, but the front door stood open. And beyond that, not water. The dirt road. We ran without speaking. Barefoot, carrying nothing but the notebook. We ran through mud and branches and cold morning fog until the house was gone behind the trees. After almost an hour, we found a paved road. A truck driver stopped for us. He kept asking what happened, but none of us could answer properly. The police went back to the property later that day. They found the lake house empty. No handwritten rules by the door. No notebook. No flooded road. No sign anyone had broken in. The host said we must have panicked because of the storm. The police were kind but unconvinced. For college girls, no sleep, no signal, strange house. You could see the explanation forming on their faces before we even finished talking. But the notebook stayed real. I still have it. The pages after that final rule are blank, except for one line I found weeks later. I don't remember writing it. It says, "Next time, don't bring Mara." Even after escaping, even with the safety of police lights behind me, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying the face I'd seen through the window. The calm, empty eyes that didn't blink, wearing my expression like it had practiced. It's been 4 years. I don't go near lakes anymore. I don't rent cabins. I don't shout names across water. I don't even like hearing my name called from another room if I can't see who said it. Mara is alive. Jess is alive. Talia is alive. We don't talk about that weekend often, but every year, around the same date, one of us gets a message from an unknown number. No words, just a photo of a back door, closed, waiting, and taped beside it, on yellow notebook paper, is a fresh list of rules. In my handwriting, Story 9. The last video I ever posted from that island showed me smiling. That's what everyone saw anyway. My hair was curled, my skin looked sun-warmed, and I was standing on a white balcony with the ocean behind me, holding a glass of pink lemonade like I was in some luxury travel ad. The caption said, "Best weekend of my life." But when I found the original file later, before the app compressed it, before the filter softened everything, I saw something different. My smile was there, but my eyes were terrified. My name is Jenna. I was 22 when this happened, living in Tampa, Florida, in a one-bedroom apartment I could barely afford. I worked at a smoothie place near a gym and took online marketing classes at night. I wasn't famous or anything. I had maybe 12,000 followers, mostly because I posted budget outfits, little makeup tutorials, and day in my life videos that made my life look way cleaner and calmer than it actually was. That's the first thing I want to say. Most influencers you see online are not rich. They are tired people filming themselves in good lighting, pretending things are easier than they are. My friends were the same. There was Alina, who did skincare content. Priya, who made fitness videos. Marisol, who posted travel hacks even though she had only been out of Florida twice. And Tessa, who was the funniest person I knew, always making fake "get ready with me for the mental breakdown I scheduled at 4 p.m. videos. We were all small creators. Not nobody, but not somebody either. So when the email came in, it felt unreal. The subject line was, "Congratulations, you've been selected for the Haven House Creator Retreat." At first I thought it was spam. Then I saw the logo, the clean website, the professional contact page, the brand names listed as sponsors. Skincare companies, wellness drinks, a luggage brand, a swimwear line I had actually heard of. The email said 5 Florida-based creators had been chosen for a private island retreat near the Bahamas. Flights, boat transfer, lodging, meals, activities, and professional content sessions were all covered. All we had to do was post 3 pieces of content and sign a standard release. It sounded too good. I told myself that was just imposter syndrome. When you're broke, good things always feel suspicious. Free shampoo feels suspicious. A discount code feels suspicious. Someone offering you a weekend on a private island feels like a prank. But the email had my name, my handle, my media kit attached. It mentioned a video I had posted 2 weeks earlier about affordable summer skincare. Alina got the same email 10 minutes later. Then Priya. Then Marisol. Then Tessa. We made a group call that night and screamed so loud my downstairs neighbor banged on the ceiling. "Girls," Tessa said, holding her phone too close to her face. "This is either our big break or the beginning of a true crime documentary." "Don't say that," Marisol said. "I'm serious. If I disappear, make sure they use my good photos." We laughed. I wish we hadn't. The retreat coordinator was a woman named Camille. She had a soft voice, perfect email grammar, and always signed messages with "warmly," which made her seem trustworthy for no real reason. She sent contracts. She sent itinerary PDFs. She sent packing lists. Everything looked normal. The only thing that felt slightly weird was a clause in the release form that said all raw footage filmed during the retreat became property of Haven House Media. I asked about it. Camille replied within 6 minutes. Totally standard for brand retreats. This helps us create recap content and pitch future sponsorship campaigns. That made sense. Or maybe I wanted it to make sense. We flew from Miami to Nassau on a Friday morning. From there, a private charter boat took us out to the island. The boat captain barely spoke. He was an older man with sun-browned skin and mirrored sunglasses, and when Tessa asked if he worked with the retreat company often, he just said, "Sometimes." The island appeared slowly, like something rising out of a dream. White sand, bright blue water, palm trees bending in the wind. A long wooden dock stretched from the beach, and at the end of it stood 2 staff members in beige linen uniforms, holding cold towels and glass bottles of water. Behind them was the house, Haven House. It was huge, modern, and almost too perfect. White walls, massive windows, pale wood decks, a pool that looked like melted glass. Every corner seemed designed to be filmed. Every chair was angled toward flattering light. Every flower arrangement looked untouched by weather. The place didn't feel lived in. It felt staged. Camille greeted us at the entrance. She was younger than I expected, maybe 30, with smooth black hair pulled into a low bun and a smile that never reached her eyes. "Welcome home, girls," she said. "Not welcome to Haven House. Welcome home." I remember noticing that and immediately telling myself I was being dramatic. The first hour was amazing. They gave us rooms with our names printed on little gold cards. Mine had a balcony facing the water, a king bed with linen sheets, and a welcome basket filled with products I could never afford. Sunscreen, serums, protein bars, a silk robe, a small white camera mounted in the corner near the ceiling. I stared at it for a second. Then Camille's voice came through a speaker by the door. "Just a reminder, the cameras in the rooms are for time-lapse setup shots only. They are deactivated when guests are inside. If you have questions, please ask any staff member." That should have made me feel better. It didn't. I texted the girls. "Me, do your rooms have cameras?" Alina replied first. "Alina, yeah, but I think it's for content." "Tessa, mine better capture my good side while I sleep." "Priya, stop." "Marisol, it's a retreat. They're filming everything. Normal." So I let it go. That night, we had a welcome dinner outside under string lights. The table was long and white, covered in candles, fruit, and tiny plates of food arranged like art. There were 6 other girls there too, creators from different places. 1 from Atlanta, 2 from New York, 1 from Austin, a pair of twins from California who had almost identical voices. Everyone was beautiful in that online way. Not fake exactly, Just polished. Practiced. Aware of angles. Before we ate, Camille stood at the head of the table and lifted her glass. To being seen, she said. Everyone cheered. I smiled and raised my drink. But the way she said it stayed with me. Not to opportunity. Not to community. To being seen. The first strange thing happened the next morning. We had a sunrise yoga session on the beach. There was a camera crew already waiting when we arrived, 3 people dressed in black with handheld cameras. They moved silently around us while the instructor guided us through poses. Breathe in, she said. Become open. The sand was cold under my palms. The ocean kept rushing in and pulling back, rushing in and pulling back. At one point, I glanced sideways at Alina. She was smiling, but there were tears running down her face. After the session, I asked if she was okay. She wiped her cheeks fast. Yeah, I don't know. I felt weird for a second. Weird how? She looked out at the water, like I was watching myself from somewhere else. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. Later that morning, Haven House posted the first recap video. It was beautiful. Slow-motion shots of us walking through the house, laughing over breakfast, sitting on the dock with matching drinks. The caption said, "Our chosen girls have arrived." Chosen girls. I checked the comments. Most were normal. People saying we looked gorgeous, asking where the resort was, saying they wanted to go next year. Then I saw one comment from an account with no profile picture. Do they know yet? I clicked the profile. Private. 0 posts. 0 followers. By the time I went back, the comment was gone. I told myself bots comment weird things all the time. I told myself the internet is full of people trying to be creepy for attention. That's what I kept doing at first. Explaining things away. Because the alternative was admitting I was on a private island with strangers who controlled the boat, the Wi-Fi, the schedule, the food, and every camera pointed at us. That afternoon, they filmed a best friend challenge by the pool. They paired us up and gave us cards with personal questions. Favorite color, biggest fear, first crush, most embarrassing secret, normal influencer content. Then Camille handed me a card and said, "Read this one to Tessa." I looked down. The card said, "What did Tessa say in the voice memo she deleted last March?" My smile dropped. Tessa stared at me. "What?" she said. I showed her the card. Her face went pale. She pulled me aside behind a row of palms, away from the cameras. "What the hell is that?" "I don't know. Jenna, I deleted that voice memo." "What was it?" She looked toward the pool crew, then back at me. "It was about my stepdad. I was drunk. I sent it to my private account by accident, then deleted it. Nobody heard it. Maybe it's a coincidence," I said, but I didn't believe it. Tessa laughed once, sharp and scared. "That is not a coincidence." We went to Camille. She listened with her head tilted slightly, hands folded in front of her. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said. "Our prompt cards are generated from pre-retreat questionnaires and public content analysis. Sometimes the AI pulls phrasing that feels too specific." "We never answered anything like that," Tessa said. Camille's expression didn't change. "I understand how it might feel invasive. We can remove that prompt." That was it. No apology that sounded real. No shock. No concern. Just, we can remove that prompt. At dinner, the mood was different. People still filmed their plates and posed under the lights, but the laughter felt thinner. Alina kept looking at the corners of the ceiling. Priya whispered that she had found a microphone under the vanity in her bathroom. Marisol told her not to say that out loud. "Why?" Priya asked. Marisol's eyes flicked toward the wall. "Because what if they hear us?" That night, I lay in bed staring at the camera in the corner of my room. A tiny red light blinked once, then went dark. I sat up. "Hello," I said, because apparently fear turns you into an idiot. No answer. The air conditioning hummed softly. The curtains moved against the balcony doors. Outside, waves broke against the rocks in a steady rhythm. I picked up my phone to text the group chat, but the Wi-Fi cut out. A second later, the speaker by the door clicked on. Camille's voice filled the room. "Sleep well, Jenna. Big day tomorrow." My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut somewhere in the hallway, and I realized I was completely alone. Someone was watching, and I had no way out. I didn't sleep much after that. The next morning, I tried to leave my room early, but my door wouldn't open. I pulled the handle twice. Locked. There was no keyhole on my side, just a sleek digital panel. I knocked. Nothing. I called Tessa. No service. Then the speaker clicked again. "Good morning, Jenna. Please prepare for your transformation session." I backed away from the door. Transformation session. That phrase had been on the itinerary, but I assumed it meant hair and makeup. Some brand thing. Before and after content. Now it sounded different. 20 minutes later, the lock clicked and the door opened by itself. A staff member stood outside. I hadn't seen her before. She was tall, maybe mid-40s, with blonde hair tied back so tightly it made her face look pulled. "Camille is ready for you," she said. "Where are my friends?" "In prep. I want to talk to them." "You will." She smiled like she had learned it from a training video. I followed her because I didn't know what else to do. That's the part people always judge in stories like this. They think they would scream, fight, run, break something. Maybe they would. But when you're in a beautiful hallway on a private island and a woman in linen is calmly telling you where to go, your brain keeps searching for the normal explanation. Maybe it's just a prank. Maybe it's part of the retreat. Maybe I'm overreacting. The transformation room was at the back of the house, behind a door I hadn't noticed before. Inside were makeup chairs, ring lights, racks of clothing, and mirrors lined with bulbs. Alina was already there. So was Priya. They were sitting in chairs, wearing white robes, faces blank. "Are you okay?" I asked. Alina looked at me through the mirror. "Don't drink anything they give you." Before I could respond, Camille walked in. "Jenna," she said brightly. "You're late." I was locked in my room. "For safety. We had a guest wandering last night." "Who?" Camille ignored the question. Two stylists guided me into a chair. One started brushing my hair. Another held up foundation shades against my jaw. I kept my hands clenched in my lap. A large screen on the wall turned on. At first it showed a live feed of the room. Me, Alina, Priya. Then the image shifted. It showed a video of me sitting on my bed the night before, staring at the camera. My blood went cold. Camille stood behind my chair, watching my reflection. "You have a very expressive fear response," she said. I stared at her. "What?" "It reads well on camera. Not too theatrical. Very believable." Alina began to cry silently. Priya whispered, "Please stop." Camille touched my shoulder. "You girls always want to be chosen until you realize selection has requirements." The screen changed again. Now it showed videos from our social media accounts. My old outfit hauls. Alina's skincare routine. Priya doing squats in her apartment gym. Tessa laughing in her car. Marisol packing a suitcase on her bed. Then it showed videos none of us had posted. Me walking from work to my apartment. Alina taking out trash at night. Priya arguing with someone in a parking lot. Marisol asleep on a plane. Tessa crying in her kitchen. My hands went numb. "How did you get those?" I asked. Camille smiled softly. "People give away so much of themselves online. Routes, habits, floor plans, reflections in windows, delivery labels. The rest is easy." The stylist behind me kept brushing my hair like nothing was happening. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the hallway made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. The door opened. Tessa came in. At least, I thought it was Tessa. She wore Tessa's yellow sundress. Her hair was styled like Tessa's. Same hoop earrings. Same glossy lips. But she stood too still. Tessa was never still. Real Tessa moved constantly, tapping her nails, fixing her rings, shifting her weight like her body was always halfway through a joke. This girl walked to the center of the room and smiled at us. "Hey babes," she said. Her voice was close. Too close. Alina made a sound like she was going to be sick. "That's not her," Priya whispered. Camille turned to the girl. Again, the girl blinked. Then she repeated it with more energy. "Hey babes." Camille looked at us. "Better." No one spoke. The girl's smile twitched. That was when I understood the twist of the whole thing, even before Camille said it. The retreat wasn't about promoting brands. It wasn't about content. It was training, auditioning, replacing. Camille walked around the room slowly. "Influence is consistency," she said. "A face, a voice, a life people think they know. But creators burn out. They become difficult. They ask for more money. They refuse certain campaigns. Sometimes they disappear from the internet, and followers mourn for a week before accepting whatever comes next." She looked at the fake Tessa. With enough footage, enough behavioral mapping, enough practice, the audience adjusts. I couldn't breathe. "Where is she?" I asked. Camille's face softened. "Tessa is resting." The fake Tessa smiled wider. "She's resting," she said, copying Camille's tone. Priya suddenly bolted from her chair. She slammed into one of the stylists, knocked over a tray of makeup, and ran for the door. For 1 second, everyone froze. Then Alina grabbed my wrist and pulled me up. We ran. Not gracefully. Not like movie girls sprinting barefoot down hallways. I slipped on spilled serum. Alina hit her shoulder against the doorframe. Priya was already ahead of us, screaming Marisol's name. The hallway alarm started. Not loud. That was the disturbing part. Just a soft, polite chime repeating through the house. Ding, ding, ding. A man stepped out from a side room. Alina threw a glass vase at him. It shattered against the wall, and he ducked just enough for us to get past. We found Marisol near the kitchen, fighting with the back door. "It won't open," she sobbed. "It won't open." Priya grabbed a knife from the counter, but her hands were shaking so badly she dropped it. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling, as I fumbled with the lock. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. The door clicked. I don't know what I pressed. It opened. We spilled onto the back deck into hot white sunlight. For a second the outside looked normal. Beautiful. Cruel. The pool sparkled. Palm leaves moved in the breeze. Somewhere, a camera kept recording on a tripod. The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting, but my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. Except it wasn't a street. It was a private island. No neighbors. No stores. No random person walking a dog who might hear us scream. Just the house, the beach, the dock, and the water. "The boat," Marisol said. We ran toward the dock. Halfway there, I looked back. Camille stood on the balcony above us. She wasn't shouting. She wasn't chasing us. She just watched with both hands resting on the railing. Beside her stood the fake Tessa. Then another girl stepped out beside them. She looked like Alina. Same robe. Same smooth hair. Same small beauty mark above her lip. Alina saw her and stumbled. "No," she said. "No, no, no." "Keep running," I yelled. The boat from yesterday was tied to the dock. The captain was nowhere around. Priya jumped in first and started searching for keys like she knew what she was doing, even though none of us knew how to drive a boat. Marisol kept crying, "Where's Tessa? We can't leave her." "We don't even know where she is," Alina said. "She's inside." "You don't know that." "I heard her," Marisol said. "Last night, through the vent. She was saying my name. That stopped all of us. Then from the house we heard Tessa scream. Not fake Tessa, real Tessa. It came from somewhere below the house, muffled but sharp enough to cut through the wind." Marisol turned toward the sound. "You got here?" "No, we can't leave her. If we go back, none of us leave." I hated myself for saying it. I still hate myself. But it was true. Before Marisol could answer, the boat engine coughed. Priya had found something. The engine started sputtering hard. A staff member appeared at the top of the dock. Then another. Then the blonde woman from my room. They didn't run at first. They walked fast, like they were trying not to look messy on camera. "Go," I screamed. Priya shoved the throttle. The boat lurched so hard I fell backward against the seats. Alina grabbed the side rail. Marisol screamed Tessa's name toward the house. As we pulled away, my phone buzzed. I looked down. No service. Still, a video had appeared in my camera roll. It was already edited. Music. Soft filter. Captions. The opening shot showed me laughing on the balcony. Then Alina holding a serum bottle. Then Priya stretching by the pool. Then Marisol blowing a kiss at the camera. Then Tessa. Real Tessa. Sitting in a white chair under bright lights, eyes swollen from crying, smiling like someone had told her exactly what would happen if she didn't. The text over the video said, "Meet the new girls." I dropped the phone like it burned me. The staff didn't follow us far. Maybe they didn't need to. Maybe the island was remote enough that they assumed we'd get lost. Maybe they had another boat. Maybe they had already gotten what they wanted. We drifted for almost an hour before Priya figured out how to use the radio. A fishing boat found us sometime after noon. When we tried to explain what happened, none of it came out right. Private island, fake influencer retreat, cameras in rooms, girls being replaced. It sounded insane. The authorities searched the island 2 days later. Haven House was empty, not abandoned, empty. The beds were made. The pool was clean. The fridge was stocked. No cameras, no staff, no Tessa, no Camille. The company website disappeared. The sponsor pages denied any partnership. The contracts led to a shell company registered under another shell company. Our social media accounts were flooded with comments accusing us of faking the whole thing for attention. That was the worst part. Not the police interviews. Not the nightmares. The comments. People saying, "This is obviously staged." People saying, "Where's the proof?" People saying, "Honestly, genius marketing." Then Tessa posted. 3 weeks after the island, a video appeared on her account. She was sitting in her car, wearing her favorite yellow hoodie, smiling at the camera. "Hey babes," she said. "I know I've been offline for a minute. I just needed a reset." The retreat was honestly life-changing. I watched that line maybe 20 times. Her smile was perfect. Her voice was almost perfect. But Tessa used to blink fast when she lied. It was this tiny thing I teased her about for years. The girl in the video didn't blink once. I sent it to the detective handling the case. He called me back the next day and said they had no evidence the person in the video wasn't Tessa. "People act different after stress," he said. "That's not her. I understand that's how it feels." "No, listen to me. That is not my friend." There was a pause. Then he said, quieter, "Jenna, without physical evidence, there's very little we can do." I hung up and cried until my face hurt. Alina deleted all her accounts. Priya moved in with her sister. Marisol still messages Tessa's account sometimes. She won't admit it, but I know she does. The replies are short and sweet and wrong. "Miss you, babe. Soon. Everything is better now." As for me, I stopped posting for almost a year. I work in an office now. Boring job. No ring lights. No sponsorship emails. No filming my morning coffee for strangers who think they know me. But sometimes at night, I check Tessa's page. I don't know why. Maybe guilt. Maybe hope. Maybe because a small, stupid part of me wants to catch the mistake that proves I'm not crazy. Last month, she posted a new video. A morning routine. Same yellow hoodie. Same kitchen. Same cheerful voice. Halfway through, she walked past a dark window, and for 1 second, the glass reflected the person filming her. It was Camille. Older now, maybe just tired, but unmistakable. Standing behind the camera, smiling. Even after escaping, even with the safety of police lights behind me, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying the face I'd seen through the window. The calm, empty eyes that didn't blink. And now I see those eyes everywhere. In ads, in sponsored posts, in creators who disappear for a month and come back softer, cleaner, more polished. In girls who suddenly stop saying certain phrases they used to say all the time. In smiles that look right until you pause the video. Sometimes the scariest part isn't what happened on that island. It's knowing how easy it was to sell us the invitation. Free trip, luxury room, perfect lighting, All they had to do was make us feel chosen. And we went willingly. Story 10. At 2:17 in the morning, the villa manager showed us the security footage from the front gate. And that was the moment I understood something was very wrong. There were 4 of us getting out of the taxi. 4 suitcases. For shadows under the yellow porch lights. For girls laughing too loudly because we were tired and trying to make the place feel less isolated than it was. But I remembered 5. I remembered Claire standing beside me in the driveway, rolling her little green suitcase over the gravel. I remembered her saying, "This place looks exactly like the pictures," in that soft voice of hers. I remembered her hand brushing my arm as we walked in. Except on the footage, Claire wasn't there. And when the manager paused the video and looked at me, confused and annoyed, he said, "Miss, I don't know who you're talking about. Only 4 guests checked in. My name is Hannah. I was 23 when this happened, and at the time I lived in a normal little apartment in Mesa, Arizona, working front desk at a dental office and taking online classes because I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. My friends were the one thing that made me feel like I had something solid. There was me, Brooke, Tessa, Morgan, and Claire. At least, that's what I believed. We had been friends since high school. The kind of friends who shared clothes, passwords, rides, secrets, and all the ugly little versions of ourselves no one else got to see. We weren't perfect. We fought. We ignored each other for months sometimes. But we always came back. That summer, Brooke suggested we rent a villa outside Sedona for a long weekend. She said we needed one last girls' trip before real life swallowed us. The villa looked beautiful online. White walls, blue-tiled pool, desert mountains in the background, string lights over the patio. It was remote, but not too remote. Expensive, but split 5 ways, it seemed doable. Claire was the quietest about the trip. She never cared where we went. She just showed up. That was one of the things about Claire. She was always just there. I know how that sounds now. Like I should have noticed. But sometimes the scariest things don't announce themselves. They sit in your life so long that you stop questioning their shape. The first weird thing happened before we even got the keys. We arrived late, around 9:30 p.m., after a delayed flight and a long ride from the airport. The villa manager, a woman named Elena, met us at the property. She was in her 50s, very neat, with silver hair pulled into a bun and reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. She counted us as we came inside. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then she frowned. Brooke laughed and said, "There are 5 of us." Elena looked at the booking on her tablet. "The reservation is for 4 guests." Tessa immediately blamed the website. "That app is trash," she said. "I swear I put 5. Elena didn't argue. She just said there were 4 welcome cards, 4 towel sets, and 4 breakfast vouchers for the cafe nearby. Claire smiled and said, "I don't need one." I remember looking at her then. She was standing near the kitchen island, wearing a cream sweater even though it was still warm outside. Her hair was tied back. Her face looked calm. Too calm, maybe. Morgan nudged me and whispered, "Claire is such a ghost." We both laughed. I wish we hadn't. The villa had 2 bedrooms upstairs and 1 downstairs. Brooke and Tessa claimed the master. Morgan took the downstairs room because she said stairs made her dizzy after drinking. That left me and Claire in the second upstairs bedroom. Except when I opened the door, there was only 1 bed. Not 1 queen bed. 1 small double bed. 1 nightstand. 1 folded towel. 1 robe. I turned to Claire and said, "Did you want me to ask for an air mattress?" She was standing behind me in the hallway, smiling like she had already expected it. "No," she said. "I'm used to it." "Used to what?" "Not having a place." I laughed because I thought she was joking. She didn't laugh back. That night, we went to a restaurant in town, one of those places with candles on every table and overpriced pasta served in shallow bowls. Brooke had made the reservation weeks earlier. When we got there, the hostess said, "Table for 4?" Brooke corrected her. 5. The hostess looked down at the screen. "I only have 4. Tessa rolled her eyes. "Again?" The hostess added a chair to the table, but everything already felt slightly wrong. 4 menus. 4 waters. 4 sets of silverware. Claire sat at the corner without complaining. The server came over and asked for drink orders. He went around the table, writing them down. Brooke, Tessa, Morgan, me. Then he walked away. Claire said nothing. I called after him. Sorry, she needs to order too. The server turned, confused. His eyes moved over our table. For a second, I swear he looked right through her. Then he blinked and said, "Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there." Claire looked at me and smiled. "People miss me all the time," she said. I told myself it was nothing. The lighting was low. The restaurant was busy. He was tired. There was always an explanation when you wanted one badly enough. But later that night, back at the villa, things got worse. We were all sitting by the pool in pajamas, drinking cheap wine from plastic cups. The desert was quiet around us. No traffic, no neighbors, just insects ticking in the dark and the low hum of the pool filter. Tessa started scrolling through old photos on her phone. "Oh my God," she said. "Look at us in junior year." She held up a picture from our first trip together. It was from Lake Havasu, 6 years earlier. I remembered that trip vaguely. Heat, sunscreen, loud music, one of us crying in a bathroom. Normal teenage drama. In the photo, 4 girls stood near the water. Me, Brooke, Tessa, and Morgan. I said, "Where's Claire?" Tessa stared at the photo. Morgan leaned in. She was taking the picture, probably. Brooke took the phone and swiped. Another photo. 4 of us. Another. 4. Another. 4. Claire sat very still across from me, her cup untouched. Brooke said, "She always hated pictures." Claire tilted her head. "Did I?" Her voice was soft, but something about it cut through the conversation. Brooke looked at her. "Yeah, you know that." Claire's smile faded. "No," she said. "You know that." Nobody spoke after that. A little after midnight, I went upstairs. I was exhausted, but I couldn't sleep. Claire was in the bathroom, running the sink for a long time. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, listening to the water. Then I heard a sound from the hallway. A slow scrape, like someone dragging fingernails lightly along the wall. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the hallway made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. The bathroom door opened. Claire stepped out, but the footsteps in the hallway kept moving. I sat up. Claire looked at the bedroom door. "What was that?" I whispered. She said, "You're starting to remember." My stomach went cold. "Remember what?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. She placed it on my pillow. It had my name written on it. Not Hannah. Hanny. Only one person had ever called me that. A girl named Nora. The second I thought her name, my body reacted before my mind did. My throat tightened. My hands went numb. Nora wasn't part of our group. Not officially. She was a girl from school who wanted to be. She was sweet in a way that made people cruel, because she tried too hard. She laughed too loud at jokes. She offered rides. She brought snacks. She remembered birthdays. And 6 years earlier, she had come with us to Lake Havasu. I had not thought about Nora in years. Or maybe I had trained myself not to. I opened the envelope. Inside was a printed screenshot of an old group chat. "Brooke, don't say Nora was with us." "Tessa, what do we say then?" "Morgan, say Claire took her home." "Me, there is no Claire." "Brooke, there is now." I stopped breathing. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone. Someone was watching, and I had no way out. Claire stood between me and the door. Her face had changed. Not physically. She still looked like Claire. But now I could see the effort behind it. The performance. "You're not Claire," I said. She smiled sadly. "No," she whispered. "But you made her." Downstairs, someone screamed. We both ran out. Morgan was standing in the living room, holding her phone like it had burned her. Tessa was crying. Brooke was by the patio doors, pale and furious. On the TV screen was a video. Old footage. Shaky, dark, filmed on someone's phone. 5 teenage girls by a lake at night. I saw myself younger, thinner, laughing too hard. I saw Brooke yelling. I saw Nora crying near the dock. The audio was messy, but I heard enough. "Stop following us," Brooke said. "I just wanted to come," Nora cried. Then the camera jerked. Someone shouted. There was a splash. The video ended. Nobody moved. Claire stood at the bottom of the stairs. Her voice was calm when she said, "You left her there." Brooke snapped first. "You don't know what happened." Claire looked at her. "I know you told everyone she left with a girl named Claire." Tessa sank onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. Morgan kept saying, "We were kids. We were kids." But Brooke just stared at Claire. "Who are you?" Claire reached up and pulled off the thin necklace she always wore. There was a tiny silver locket on it. She opened it and held it out. Inside was a photo of Nora, and another girl beside her. Younger. Same eyes. "I'm her sister," Claire said. "My name is Emily." The room went silent. Outside, the desert wind pressed against the windows. Emily told us she had spent years looking for the truth. Police had treated Nora as a runaway at first. Then an accident. Her parents broke apart. Her mother still kept Nora's room untouched. And we had gone on with our lives. Brooke whispered, "It was an accident." Emily nodded. "Maybe." Then she looked at each of us. But the lie wasn't. That was when Brooke lunged for the TV. She ripped the little flash drive from the back and ran toward the kitchen sink. Emily moved after her. I don't know who shoved who. I just remember glass breaking, Tessa screaming, and Morgan yelling for everyone to stop. Brooke grabbed a knife from the counter. Not like she was going to use it. At least, that's what I tell myself. But her hand was shaking, and her face looked wild. "Give me your phone," Brooke said to Emily. Emily backed toward the hallway. "No, give me the phone." "Brooke," I said, "stop." She turned on me so fast I flinched. "You stop," she hissed. "You all agreed. All of you. Don't act clean now." I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling, as I fumbled for the keys on the entry table. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. Emily ran for the front door. Brooke chased her. The door slammed open into the night. For a few seconds, all I heard was gravel, crying, and the pool filter humming like nothing had changed. Then Emily screamed. Not loud. Short. Cut off. That sound broke whatever was left in me. I ran outside with Morgan behind me. Tessa was on the phone with emergency services, barely able to speak. The front yard was washed in moonlight. The driveway was empty except for our rental car. The desert beyond the villa looked endless, full of black shapes and low bushes. Then I saw Emily near the side gate. Brooke had her by the arm. The knife was on the ground. Brooke kept saying, "You don't understand. You don't understand." Emily wasn't fighting. She was just staring at her. And that scared me more, because Emily had never come there to hurt us. She came to make us look at what we had buried. Police arrived 20 minutes later. The villa manager came too, angry at first, then quiet when she saw our faces. Brooke was arrested that night, though not for Nora. Not then, just for assault and obstruction. The rest came later. The recovered video, the old messages, the statements that finally matched. Nora's case was reopened. I told them everything I remembered and everything I had pretended not to. How Nora slipped, how she hit the water wrong, how Brooke panicked, how we waited too long, how someone said, "If we call now, our lives are over." I don't know who said it. Maybe all of us did, in our own way. It's been 3 years. Brooke took a deal. Tessa moved away and changed her number. Morgan still sends me blank messages sometimes, then deletes them before I can answer. Emily never contacted me again, but I think about her constantly. Not as Claire. Claire was never real. She was a name we made up because the truth was too heavy and we were too selfish to carry it. That's the part one can't forgive myself for. Not just what happened to Nora, but how easily we created someone else to stand in the space where she should have been. A fake friend. A clean story. A fifth girl who was never invited because she never existed. Even after the police lights filled that driveway, Even after we were separated and questioned and driven away from the villa, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying Emily's face through the window, the calm, empty eyes that didn't blink. I used to think memories were private. Now I know they can wait for you. They can sit quietly in the back of your life, patient and untouched, until one day a stranger walks into the room wearing the shape of your lie. And when that happens, the scariest part isn't that the truth found you. It's realizing it was there the whole time. You were just calling it by another name.